But yes, good morning, everyone. Hopefully you're having a great day today. Hopefully you enjoyed your weekend. And happy Monday. Apologies, this is a bit late. My plans on the weekend ended up changing their times a bit, so I couldn't end up streaming the patch notes over the weekend, so we're going to do it this morning. Then we're going to jump into Commander Quest afterward. But again, welcome. So, we are going over the Path of Exile Mirage patch notes. Let me just quickly... Okay. Let's get started. There's a lot to go over. These are some pretty spicy patch notes, not just from the amount of stuff, but a lot of great changes from what we listened to with the reveal. So I just wanted to dive a little deeper into the specific changes. Obviously, they're not going to tell us in the preview about every skill change, every, the weapon stat changes, if there's those, that kind of thing. So I really do like getting into the actual patch notes themselves as we do a little bit of a read through. If there's bug fixes and stuff like that, I probably won't go over all of those. And unless there's anything stand outish, we probably won't dive into deep with like skill percentages and stuff like that, which do interest me, but I'm more prioritized on the main changes. Unless something, again, is like if something got a 50% nerf or buff, that's obviously important, but just as a bit of a preface. So let's get started. So there's a lot of changes here, as you can see from the table of contents here. We got the Challenge League, new content and features, endgame changes, Atlas passive tree changes, Keeper the Flame is moving to core. Oh, Harbinger's removed. I didn't know that. Okay. League changes, player changes, skill gem, Val gem changes, support gem, ascendancy, bloodline, passive skill tree changes, unique item changes, regular item changes, ruthless specific changes. I don't really play ruthless, but I know some people do. Monster changes, quest reward changes, user interface and QOL, microtransaction updates and bug fixes. So there's a lot. So yeah, let's get into it. So, starting off with the Mirage Challenge League. Take on a rogue sect of the Faradun as they sap the energies of captured Jinn for nefarious ends and help a legendary Maraketh Sekima put an end to the ancient war once and for all. The Afarud, the most depraved and twisted of the Faradun, have formed a pact with Suresh, a powerful necromancer who built an army of the undead to seek revenge on the Maraketh. Deny their twisted efforts towards dominion by joining forces with Varashta and freeing the spirits of Jinn before the Afarud can accomplish their goals. You'll encounter the physical form of trapped Jinn, imprisoned and tortured by the Afarud warlocks. After successfully defeating them, you'll be asked by Varashta to enter the Astral Realm, a mirage containing an imperfect copy of the world around you. She can augment the magic of the mirage as you enter, giving you the option to choose one of 3 wishes before you do so. These wishes modify the mirage in powerful and potent ways, transforming the copy within and causing monsters slain to drop powerful loot currency for enhancing equipment and gems, special caches, or even strange mysterious coins, which we know that those coins are the way that you're going to be imbuing a passive into your gems. Now, we'll probably get into that a bit more later as well, but one thing that I thought during the reveal is because it corrupts you're missing out on a level 21 gem. So it's going to really depend, because I think spells in particular want that skill level more than another level 1 support. But I think attack skills don't matter as much, because generally base damage is based off the weapon. So yeah, I would say it's better for attack skills than spells, but we'll see. Fight your way through the monsters, astral hazards, and Afarud. I'm gonna keep saying that weirdly. To tether holding the Jinn. Shatter the chain to free the Jinn, step by step weakening whatever dark plans the Afarud may have for Rayclast. With 3.28.0, there are standard, hardcore, and solo self-found variations of the Mirage Challenge League available. They have the same core mechanics and items. You can create private league versions of these leagues with mods that make the game harder. So, more modifiers if you want to change it up. Hardcore variations of Mirage are parented to their standard Mirage equivalent, meaning if you die in hardcore, you can continue on in standard Mirage League. The new Mirage League includes a set of 40 new challenges and 8 new challenges in Ruthless Mirage. Earn pieces of Orb Regalia armor set when you complete 12, 20, 28, and 36 challenges in Mirage, or 2, 4, 6, and 8 challenges in Ruthless Mirage. These challenge rewards are only obtainable in this league. From the 19th challenge onwards, for every third challenge after, you will receive a piece of a Mirage totem pole decoration to display in the hideout. Totem pole permanently showcases how many of the Mirage challenges you completed during the league. Fair enough. I am going to try and do more challenges this time than previously. It's kind of a goal I wanted to set for myself, so we'll kind of get back to that later. So for new content and features, we added the new Reliquarian Ascendancy class for the Scion. Notable passive skills for the Reliquarian borrow from powers of unique items found throughout Rayclast, and will change with each league, which I think is really cool. It gives a little bit of FOMO that I'm not thrilled about, as in it wants people to make a Scion each time, even if they might want to do something else, because the powers could be strong that league, but it really depends. Overall, I like it though. For this reason, these notables will not be available as outcomes for Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh unique jewels, which makes sense because then they'd have to change it every single time, which would be a pain in the butt. Introduced exceptional support gems, a new and improved version of Awakened support gems, which are being phased out. There are over 40 exceptional support gems, which can be found in the endgame. They showed a couple off for us, but I'm assuming they're going to show us more down below in the gem section. Introduce the Coin of Knowledge, which corrupts a level 20 skill gem, imbuing it with a random valid intelligence support effect. Coin of Power is the same thing for strength, and the Coin of Skill is the same thing for dexterity. Again, the biggest thing to note is that it does corrupt the gem, meaning you can't use a Val Orb on it to bring it up to level 21. Because I don't think the, corrupting it this way messes with it other than just stopping it from being corrupted with a Vol. So, again, this is where I believe it's a level 1 support. Maybe they'll explain that a bit later. But the ones in the demo, I believe, are all level 1. So. Added a new Strength Intelligence skill gem, Divine Blast, which is project a beam of holy light from the shield towards a targeted location, causing an implosion of holy energy. This was shown in the demo. This energy lingers for a short duration before blasting outwards in a larger, more damaging explosion. So it does a targeted implosion first, then there's a delay, then it explodes. So there's 2 instances of damage, I'm assuming. New Strength Intelligence skill gem, the Holy Hammers, which is slamming the ground ahead of you, calling down a Holy Hammer from above. On hitting an enemy, another hammer will cascade forward, repeating if further enemies are hit up to a cap. Okay, so that's important, because that's what they didn't say in the trailer, and I was wondering is what, like, how many times can it cascade? Maybe they'll have the specifics further down, but we'll see. Power charge can be expended to call down additional hammers on either side of the initial slam. Requires a mace or staff. Okay. New Strength Intelligence, Holy Strike. Infuse your weapon with holy energy and swing. Successfully hitting an enemy will summon a holy armament, which copies your main hand weapon stats to determine its own. These holy armaments are undamageable minions, which is interesting. I wonder if you could pair this in a reanimate weapon or animate guardian build. Probably animate weapon. We'll see. That'd be cool. They will attack the enemies you target with Holy Strike with their own Holy Strike. Requires a mace, scepter, or staff. They also added Shield of Light, which is a retaliate skill. Retaliate against a blocked hit with a sweep of the shield, unleashing a wave of light in a cone in front of you. Additional waves also emanate from allies in a radius around the first target struck towards that target. We did see that that range is a bit short in the trailer itself. Like, I'd say there was some minion, like the player was pretty close, and the minions in front of him unleashed their version of the skill, but the minions right behind the player didn't. So, we'll have to see how big the radius actually is. Alright. New Strength Transfigured Gem, the Shockwave Totem of Authority, which is summons a totem that shakes the earth around you, damaging enemies. Again, that was shown off. Strength Intelligence Transfigured, Static Strike of Gathering Lightning. Attack with a melee weapon, gaining a Gathering Lightning buff for a duration if you hit an enemy. While you have this buff, attacks with the skill will cause chaining beams of lightning, which chain further the more Gathering Lightning you have. That's cool. So, like, you can ramp up the lightning damage, and the more you hit, the more charges you get, so the better you chain. That'd be cool. For, like, Whirlwind or something. Lightning Tornado. New Dex Transfigured Skill Gem, Charge Dash of Projection. Channel to project an illusion which you steer. Gain charges as it moves until it stops at the maximum total distance. Waves of area damage frequently pulse along its path based on your attack speed. Stop channeling to release the illusion, dealing a final wave of damage. Requires a melee weapon. That's interesting. Huh. The only thing I didn't like projection or charge dash at all normally is that it leaves your, doesn't it leave your body susceptible or vulnerable? Because I don't think it makes you immune while you're channeling it. I could be wrong though. I haven't seen it in a long time. But I just end up using like Flame Dash or Frostblink. But we'll see. If the damage is really good, you know, maybe that's a good way of well, especially if you're an attack speed build. We'll see. New Dex Intelligence Transfigured Gem, Flamethrower Trap of Stability, which throws a trap that releases a number of flames in different directions around it when it's triggered. They last for a duration, repeatedly dealing damage. Okay. I wonder if it's static. Like, say for example, they kind of shoot up, down, left, and right. Does it spin? like an actual flamethrower trap, or is it just kind of there? That'd be cool. Kinetic fusillade of detonation. Wave your wand. Oh, we're doing more wands. To create multiple hovering kinetic projectiles. After a short duration, they explode, dealing area damage. Using this attack again will reset the duration for all hovering projectiles. It cannot be used by traps or mines. Okay. So you can essentially make like a minefield. Because you can keep casting as you move, and it resets the duration of the explosion. I'd be interesting to see how well that shotguns. Like, if you could get it to do enough damage, just run around a boss for a little bit while using it to put, like, an absolute ton of them out. I mean, cool. And this is another one I had questions about. Orb of Storms of Squalls, which is an interesting name already. Creates an electric orb that will strike enemies in the area of effect with beams of lightning when placed, as well as when you use a lightning skill within its area. Beams of lightning can split to hit more enemies. When striking enemies, the orb will teleport to a random enemy struck. Casting the skill again will replace the previous orb. Now, in the trailer, sometimes the orb didn't jump. So I'm wondering if it itself has like a detection range. I'm not sure. But like they were using the lightning teleport. And a couple times the orb did not follow. So I'm assuming that's the case. Shock Nova of Procession, which did look fun. Cast a ring of lightning around you, followed by a larger lightning nova. Each effect hits enemies caught in the area with lightning damage, then this repeats, with each repeat offset from the previous in the direction of your target. Which is cool. We saw that in the trailer where it was like a tsunami of lightning. Be an interesting clear skill. Stormburst of Repulsion. Unleash energy orbs, or orbs of energy, while you channel that repeatedly jump away from the targeted location until the duration expires. Okay, dealing damage in a small area after each jump. When you stop channeling, all remaining orbs explode, dealing higher damage in a larger area. Interesting. Siphoning Trap of Pain throws a trap that applies debuff beams to a number of nearby enemies for a duration. Beams chill enemies and deal cold damage over time. Decent. Blessed Call Support supports Warcry skills, causing them to create consecrated ground. Ooh. They also have lowered area of effect and cooldown recovery rate, though. Cannot support triggered Warcries. I wonder if Consecrated Ground has any new interactions. Because that'd be interesting things to add with all the new holy skills. We'll see. Excommunicate supports a melee attack, causing them to gain a % of physical damage as extra fire and lightning, and excommunicate enemies on melee hit. Does not modify skills used by minions. Excommunicate enemies on melee hit. I don't know what that means. They don't have an explanation there. Exemplar supports minions, causing your minions to have increased critical strike chance and critical strike multiplier for each of your own recent critical strikes. That's cool. Yeah, because isn't there the oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the staff. One sec, let me... This is why I have this ready. I believe it is a... stave, right? Or maybe not. Winds of Fate, right? Yes. So maximum crit chance is 50. No critical strikes, deal no damage. But there are ways of increasing this through... What was the one I was thinking about? Oh, the belt. Now, it is a, like, headhunter / mage blood level belt. But if you got the crit shrine on that, that would be really cool. Actually, I wonder how that interacts with this. Maximum crit strike is 50. I guess the shrine would override it because it just says you crit. It doesn't change your critical chance at all. So that might work. But that would be cool then, because what you could do is just keep critting with like a rapid hit, like, you know, good old spin to win. And you would stack your minions up with this. Be interesting to see. Hallow support. Melee attacks you use by yourself cause them to inflict Hallowing Flame on melee hit, but cannot modify skills of minions. And that's the one that marks them and detonates when a different ally hits them. 10 new rune graphs that can be found by shipping the ports in King's March. Rune graph of the Agile, Connection, Consecration, Fury, Imbued, Rallying, Resurgence, Rot Blood, Spellbound, and Suffering. I think they showed us the Fury and Resurgence. So the Fury was, I believe, grant 3 Fury whenever you use a life flask. And the Resurgence was when you're affected by Arcane Surge, increase regeneration of life, or increase life regeneration by, I think it was 15%. But the other ones are unknown yet. 13 new unique items, 8 new divination cards. The exotic substash of the current stash has been split into 2 new substashes, Atlas and League. Oh. I'm not sure what the Atlas exotics. Huh. Continue to incrementally improve the sound, art, effects, and environments. This is in every single patch note, but it's always appreciated. It's all of your art team and effects team and stuff like that. So, very good. Okay, so this is one of the big things that people really liked, was the endgame changes. So extensive changes have been made to the Atlas and how you engage with maps without interfering with the beloved core experience. Some of the more frustrating aspects have also been streamlined or removed. We definitely saw quality of life in this. Map items are no longer associated with a specific map area. As an example, instead of having a tier 10 mesa, you will now find a tier 10 map. Click on Mesa, the actual Mesa map itself, location, and put in your map item and activate the map device. So it's essentially like the good stuff from PoE 2. That Mesa map may also drop a T11 map. You can also put this in your map device, which defaults to the last map run, which is nice. And either run Mesa again or choose a new map area to use it on. So yeah, especially if you like doing map blasting. I like changing up the maps a little bit. I don't like doing the same one over and over again too much, but that's definitely a plus, because we did also see that all of the items persist in the map device after you select a different map or like load it up again after completing a map. So you can deposit like all your scarabs and stuff like that into it, and then just keep running it over and over again without too much of a problem. So that's a big plus if you enjoy like single map blasting. The structure of the atlas has also changed. You now begin the exploration in the center of the atlas, with each corner housing one of 4 voidstone slots. Which is also cool because it gives you 4 options now from branching out of the start instead of just I think it was 3 previously, if I remember correctly. The structure, all content accessed through the map device is now physically present on the atlas, allowing you to see everything available in the endgame as you reveal the Fog of War. All unique maps are also present on the atlas, including some old favorites that are appearing for the first time. I think they'll mention this later, but they did mention they're taking away all of the map crafting options, which I'm not sure about. Because I like being able to load specific content by paying, I think it was generally just Chaos Orbs, but I guess it depends on how frequent the astrolabes are going to be. Because if we're getting them really often, like Scarab quantity or more, then it's not too bad. But the other thing is maybe they're trying to push Scarabs as the deciding factor for what content's in your map, which also kind of sucks because then it's pushing you to want to use, or one of your Scarab slots to be used up by the Scarab contains X in your map, right? Like, your map contains a Blight or something like that. Before, if you could force craft it on into that map, but then it actually left that Scarab slot open for other modifiers you could put in. So, we'll see. We'll see. You now gain 1 Atlas skill point per unique map completed on your Atlas up to 10. There are around 20 unique maps available, so you only need to complete about half you want. Looking at you, Hall of Grandmasters. Which is nice, because I know there's some unique maps that were terrible for certain people's builds. So this allows you to kind of cherry pick a little bit extra to make sure, you can run them, especially if you're trying to get them early for those Atlas points. The remaining Atlas skill points have been moved to other places, and you can now get more Atlas skill points total than before, which I believe they showed, and it was 138 total. I think that's what it showed in the demo. Aegon now has a new goal and is determined to stop Zana transversing the threads that weave the Atlas together and severing them. He has made use of a new mysterious discovery, the arcane astrolabes. But by using them to trace her movements, they cause dangerous side effects. Using the astrolabes on a map on the Atlas manifests a shaped region in that quadrant of the Atlas, affecting many of the maps within it. There are many types of astrolabes, and they affect different types of shaped regions. So the other thing with this is, compared to crafting or just guaranteed on a map, you have to actually drop them, I'm pretty sure. Like, what if you wanted to do Blight? I'll use me as an example. What happens if you just be severely unlucky and don't drop Blight astrolabes? Then you just don't get to do that content. Kind of feels a little weird. Although, I guess you could argue that you can get it almost to 100% chance on the Atlas tree if you block other nodes. Like if you use, block a heist, or not heist, but, my brain. We'll say Legion. You block Legion, but other things are more likely to happen. So if you block all of them except the ones you want, I think you can get pretty close, if not up to 100% chance to spawn, but that takes a lot more of your Atlas points away. Again, I think it really depends on how, like, what the drop chance is for the astrolabes. Once you have successfully rid... Oh, sorry, I missed one. Completing the content added by the astrolabe will remove the shaped region's influence from that particular map. Upon doing so, every other map remaining in the shaped region will get an additional modifier. It is a random modifier, from what I know. I think in one of the interviews they said that they did take out a lot of unrelated modifiers. So it's not just like anything. However, each of them will be random, so you might want to check the maps in between. Like, for example, if you're running Blight, one of them could reroll the additional modifier and get, you know, Blight chests are lucky. And the other one is pack size. So maybe you want the lucky instead of the pack size. So it adds more randomness to it. Plus, I guess that would slow down map blasting a little bit if they had to kind of pause their, you know, their momentum in just blasting through maps, if they want to stop and check all of the modifiers that are kind of stacking up. Because I think they said, like, some of them applied to between 5 and 8 maps. So that's a lot of modifiers. After you successfully rid the Atlas of the shaped region, Aegon will take you to one of the 4 memory vaults, which are powerful rewards. Each vault is associated with a specific quadrant on the Atlas, so you're able to target a certain vault if you're wanting to get a more specific type of reward. Now, I think the downside to this is that not only are you in a specific quadrant, it locks you to specific maps. Like, for example, the Mesa map that they showed in the demo was in the top right quadrant. So, for example, if you really like Mesa, you're stuck with, like, a map blasting specifically, right? If you like doing repeat maps, you're locked to that top right quadrant, which means you're also locked to that specific vault. So you would need to find maps that you want to farm in each quadrant, which could be kind of unfortunate. Like, if it just happens to be, like, this league or another league down the line where, you know, a lot of maps that people don't prefer are in a quadrant that they really need to farm for, you know, whatever reward is in that specific vault. So, there's that. Interacting with the map device now opens the Atlas screen. Clicking locations on the Atlas will allow you to use a map and any fragments to open portals to that specific location. Certain locations will require special map items to access, such as unique maps, Shaper Guardian maps, Nightmare maps, Fall Temple, and locations requiring map fragments instead of map items. Fair enough. You can now run any map with a map item. The favored map system has been removed. Okay, so they did just remove it. Okay. We didn't see it in the trailer, so I wasn't sure if it was being repurposed for another use or actually just removed altogether, but it is removed altogether. Memory skills have also been removed from the originator-influenced areas. You can still collect petals in these areas, which now instead grant a higher chance to find items with memory strands. I honestly haven't really done a lot of crafting with the memory strands yet. So I can't... Like, I'm just assuming this is better, because you're more likely to find items with them on it. But again, I can't really speak on that too much, because I haven't really used that mechanic very often, so... Just from what it sounds like, getting more items with the resource on them, because it's the memory strands are a specific resource that's attached to that item, and when you craft on that item, it consumes some of them to increase the modifier potency. Like, you have a higher chance of getting better modifiers, I'm pretty sure, is how it works. So, more chances to find items with memory strands equals more chances to roll and try and craft things on them with those strands. So, to me, it sounds like a good thing. Several of the effects have been removed from memory skills, or sorry, from the removed memory skills have been moved to new bonus modifiers on altars at the end of maps with memory threads. For example, killing a rare monster consumes 30 petals if possible to revive the monster once. Okay. Huh. Again, I haven't run the memory maps too much, so... I definitely remember the modifiers, though. Because I remember we got one where it was like, consume a certain amount of petals and enemies around you get quantity and rarity based on the number consumed. That was hilarious. Because we had loot explosions going on, so... We'll see. Decayed Voidstone is now obtainable from killing both the Shaper and the Elder. Can also still be obtained from defeating Uber Elder. Okay, so... they're making the Voidstones more accessible. So if you don't want to fight Uber Elder, you can just fight Shaper and Elder, and that'll give it to you. Which is nice. It lowers the difficulty level of getting all the Voidstones. Especially now that the fourth stone unlocks the new supports. So. You now receive a Voidstone from killing both the Searing Exarch and the Eater of Worlds, instead of one of each. Oh, okay. The extra Voidstone that this leaves is now obtained from killing the Incarnation of Dread, which I believe is the memory map bosses. Well, boss, specifically. Okay. So you do, like, in order to get the Voidstones out, you have to kill each of the I'm assuming these are the normal bosses. Because I'm pretty sure every time you fight the bosses with a new league, the first one you fight is like a quest version that's less powerful than the normal. And then there's the Uber version after. I wonder if the quest one counts. If so, this is a lot easier for people. I'm not sure about the Incarnation of Dread, though. That might be a little bit harder than the other four. I'm not sure. They introduced the Memory of Loneliness, Trauma, and Reverence, which are adding a memory thread to a quadrant of the Atlas leading to the incarnation of neglect, fear, and dread. Okay, so it's like an astrolabe, pretty much, for a specific incarnation that you want to fight. Fair enough. The Threads of the Originator questline now awards a skill book granting 2 Atlas points and 2 passive skill points and 2 Atlas respec points for defeating each incarnation boss. You want to fight all of them if you can. Tier 17 maps have undergone significant changes and are now nightmare maps. Completing each nightmare map now awards 1 Atlas skill point for 5 total. Slightly increase the value of rewards from Originator influenced and nightmare map modifiers that increase pack size or item rarity. Okay. Because they did say they're adding a lot of pack size, item rarity, and something else to items in different ways because they removed cartographers' chisels. So this might be one of those things. Slightly reduce the reward values of Originator influenced and nightmare maps that granted more currency, maps, or scarabs. Okay. So increased pack size and technically is more drops because there's more monsters to kill, which again have just more chances to drop items. So I wonder how that balances out. After obtaining the Voidstone from killing the Incarnation of Dread, items with memory strands will now be able to drop from all maps ran on the Atlas. Oh, that's cool. More memory strand affected items will still come from originator maps to retain them from being the best source. Okay, I see. So if you're trying to focus on memory strand items, you still want to run the originator maps, but after defeating the boss, you have a chance to get them from everywhere else, which is cool. I like that. While still keeping like the goal of that map being getting those items. Okay. Items that drop with memory strands will now more often be higher tier bases. Awesome. Items that drop with memory strands will have more memory strands on average. Great. They will have a larger influence on the map of modifiers present on the item than previously. Oh, okay. So just they buffed memory strand items just in general, looks like across the board. Atlas bonus objectives now additionally grant +1 to item map quantity for every 4 bonus objectives completed. And I think that's what we saw. And I think it was, well, at least when they showed it, it was 25%. I don't remember how many bonus objectives total there are. But it goes up to at least 25. Which is probably a lot now that I'm thinking about it, because it's 1 per 4. So, yeah. Uber bosses now only require 4 fragments to access, previously 5, so you can run Uber bosses more frequently. Okay. Maven invitations are now accessed through Kirak rather than some of them being quest items you place in the map device. Better inventory management. Sacrifice and mortal fragments are no longer be used in the map device to open a random Val side area directly. Instead, they can be used alongside maps to add a Val side area to the open map while still applying their current map item quantity bonus. I never really did Val side area specific stuff other than getting it through the campaign or randomly spawning the map. So I'm not sure on that. Sacrifice and mortal fragments now explicitly state the map item quantity bonus they apply to areas. Clarity. Very nice. Elder Guardian, Shaper Guardian, and Conqueror maps always generate on T16 maps. As a result, divination cards for these items no longer explicitly state the map tier. Okay. Because they'll always be T16. Blessed Orbs are now able to roll the specific Conqueror inhabiting Conqueror maps. Oh, okay. Or the specific Elder Guardian inhabiting Elder Guardian maps. This change does not affect pre-existing Conqueror maps or Elder Guardian maps. Cool. Kirak no longer offers Atlas missions, and defeating map bosses no longer has a chance to grant Kirak missions. Oh. Okay. Well, I guess the Kirak missions were a way of trying to target specific maps that you haven't completed yet, more so than their actual rewards sometimes. But since there's no longer specific map area tied maps, and they're just all tier system based, I guess that makes more sense. It does kind of suck though. As a result, the Planar Tactician, Solidarity, Expert Reconnaissance, Commissioned Officer, and Expect the Unexpected notable Atlas passives and associated small passives have been removed. Okay. Scouting reports can no longer be obtained, and existing items no longer function. Yeah. I'm interested why they're not, like, why they didn't just leave this in. Because it still functions the same. So for example, if you don't have any, maybe a T10 map, and you only have less for whatever reason, you could still go to Kirak and open a T10 like mission he has. Maybe it was just too much of a hassle to try and redo into the tiered Waystone-like system, so maybe they just removed it because it wasn't worth the time investment. Could be. Side quest divination cards have been temporarily disabled and existing copies cannot be traded in. Kirak's shop now sells a wider variety of map-related items, and his shop can be rerolled with gold. Okay. Maps within the Kirak shop generally sell for gold, although some special items may still sell for Chaos Orbs and Orbs of Chance. Okay, so they're just saying here, buy them instead. Fair enough. Cartographer chisels can no longer be obtained, though existing items will still function, and the map device crafting options have been removed. The loss of content and loot here has been compensated in other areas. So again, the map crafting options I'm sad about going. It, again, really depends on Astrolabe and Scarab quantity. I'm at work right now. Pull up for the next stream. Oh, okay. One sec. There we go. Sorry about that. Where was I here? Yeah, sorry. So if astrolabes are frequent enough drops that you're not concerned about having the content you want to run show up, I think it's fine. If they're wanting people to use the extra scarab slot to guarantee it, though, that's unfortunate. Because again, it consumes a scarab slot that you could use for anything else. I do like the shops selling the maps for gold, though. That's nice. Although, the main problem with that, especially with King's March, is, especially for people that don't have a massive amount of time to play, there's going to be a lot more burden on gold spending. Specifically, I believe they increased... What was it? Or no, they changed the way that King's March produces items and currencies and stuff like that. I think they inverted it. So I think ores... Is it ores now are gear and production is currency, I think. So we'll see. Temple architects now drop additional scarabs instead of additional map currency when you have an Atlas of Worlds room in the temple. Okay. Reduce the chances for quality currency to drop from synthesized monsters in synthesized maps. Removed all vendor recipes that could grant cartographer's chisels. Makes sense. The effect of 20% quality on maps has been reduced. Cartographer chisels in standard leagues will provide plus 10% item quantity at 20%. Quantity previously plus 20. Okay. Maven's Chisel of Procurement is now 40% item rarity at 20% quality, previously plus 60. Okay, so they're nerfing it all by half. Yeah, 50% divination instead of 100, 50% scarabs instead of 100, and 50% currency instead of 100. Okay. Quality applies to pack size instead of instead of item quantity can no longer appear as a corruption implicit modifier on maps. Chisels now always apply 20% quality to maps. Okay, fair. The cartographer strongboxes can no longer roll the modifier granting contained items additional quality. I don't know the hyper specifics of the economy enough in my brain to like hyper balance this. Because I guess that, like, you're losing a lot of direct quality, but you're gaining it in other ways. Like, again, like, the global up to plus 25% from doing the challenges. I don't know, like, comparatively where this sits on the scale of, is it technically better now, or, like, it might be a little bit worse? I'm not sure. I guess we'll see, especially like when the league is like after its first like few hours into the next couple days. Getting more information on that. Empyrean Apparatus Unique Strongbox no longer has a modifier granting contained items have additional quality. Eldritch Altars influenced by the Searing Exarch can now grant Orbs of Scouring. Oh, that's cool. And Eldritch Altars influenced by the Eater of Worlds no longer grant them. Oh, so they're making like a difference between the two, which is nice. Greatly reduce the amount of items dropped from explosive barrels in the Fortress map. They will now drop a comparable number of items to barrels in other maps. Was Fortress somehow overstocked? I mean, if you're thinking about a fortress, yeah, they would be stocked up, but that is funny. Resonating Shrine no longer grants a bonus per power, frenzy, and endurance charge. Instead, now granting an additional maximum power, frenzy, and endurance charge. But it still grants random charge generation on hit and kill. Oh. I wonder if they changed this because of the belt. I'm assuming it was because of the belt. I haven't seen them change the shrines in a while. Efficacy of the Ambush Scarab of Discernment has been reduced. Lowered the bonus reward granted by Blight Scarabs of Invigoration by 20%. Oh, that sucks. Blight Scarab of Blooming no longer adds additional non-boss wave of monsters to each Blight portal. Oh. Wait, what are they doing to my Blight Scarabs? hold on. Blight Scarab of the Blight Heart no longer doubles the number of waves spawned in Blight encounters. It now guarantees each portal has 2 additional waves, with chances for a 3rd and 4th wave to occur. Oh. Huh. I wish they said what the chance is. Like, is it, you know, a 50% chance for the 3rd and a 25% chance for a 4th? Or is it like a 5% chance and a 10% chance? I wonder if it's going to actually show us in game. Because I would like to know the actual chances on this. Horn Scarab of Awakening now grants T16 areas contain the boss from a random Maven invitation. Right. Yeah, so this will spawn a random... Wait, Maven invitation? I thought it was feared. Or, oh, maybe I'm thinking of the Jinn Wish. There was a Jinn Wish, I believe, that did that. Introduce the Abyss Scarab of Descending, which guarantees an abyssal depths. Anarchy Scarab of Exceptional, which adds an additional exceptional rogue. That one was hilarious, by the way. So, I believe they said it was affected by all 3 wisps. It was... it counted as a rare, so it's got the rare modifiers. It's also blessed by a shrine, and it's possessed by a tormented spirit, which is insane. So I wonder how difficult those are going to be when these guys show up. That's going to be funny. Introduce Betrayal Scarab of Unbreaking, which gives a chance for Syndicate members not to lose ranks when they're interrogated. I wonder if that's worth it. Because with Syndicate, like, you're wanting to be very specific on who you interrogate and kill, that kind of stuff. Because you want to set up the Syndicate in a specific way to get things from specific characters. But if this is a chance to not lose ranks, if you're counting on it to happen and it doesn't happen, then it's bad. Because then it might mess up your setup. But if you're counting on it not to work and it triggers, that's also bad. I guess you could target them again, but... I'm not sure. Maybe there's a use for it that I'm not thinking of. I don't really do Syndicate that much either, so I don't know it super well. Expedition Scarab of Infusion, which makes logbooks dropped in an area always drop with 4 implicit modifiers and causes expedition monsters to gain increased difficulty and reward for each remnant detonated. Kalgurin Scarab of Enrichment increases the amount of ore gained from ore deposits and the difficulty and reward of monsters guarding the ore deposits for every completed ore deposit in the area. Well, that's cool. So, like, if you really wanted to juice it up, you could stack ore deposits. I don't know the maximum you can get in a zone. Like, if you're counting the Atlas passive tree as well, plus a Scarab. I don't know the maximum number, but it'll be interesting to try. Ritual Scarab of Corpses causes rituals in the area to contain additional rare itemized corpse monster that will appear in the favor window. Oh, that's cool. Especially, like, for specters. Scarab of Resurgence no longer enrages beyond bosses on low life, and instead summons beyond bosses of other factions when one is summoned. So instead of only summoning one of the bosses, you're summoning all 3, which is cool. Scarab of Neurosis now grants Delirium reward types gain +1 to count on defeating unique Delirium bosses. That's cool. Domination Scarab of Apparitions can now also spawn Pantheon Shrines in addition to Conquer ones. Influencing Scarabs of Conversion have been renamed to Influencing Scarabs of Interference. It no longer grants chances for maps to drop a Shaper, Guardian, Elder Guardian, oh my goodness, Conquer unique synthesized maps, and now instead spawns a Conquer, Elder, or Shaper Guardian, or Synthesis boss to accompany the map boss. Okay. So instead of it dropping a new map that you have to run to fight those, it just makes it so that that boss is also in the map boss, like, arena area. This additional boss is guaranteed to drop a Shaper, Guardian, Elder Guardian, Conquer, or unique synthesized map. Interesting. So you get to fight one of the bosses, and it guarantees a drop of one of those maps. That's cool. Legion Scarab of Command has been renamed to the Legion Scarab of Treasures, which grants chests that are broken out a chance for the chest rewards to be applied to the monsters it breaks out. That's an interesting sentence, while also making those monsters more difficult and rewarding. Ritual Scarab of Selectiveness now allows re-rolling 2 additional times instead of 1, which is very nice. Torment Scarab now grants a chance for tormenting spirits that have possessed monsters to be released when they are killed. The spirit then immediately dives into the ground, resurfacing with a new rare monster, which they again possess. Wait, so they spawn a new rare monster. It doesn't jump to a new rare monster. So you could chain rare monsters with this, depending on the chance, of course. But like, let's just say it's 50%. So you have a spirit possess a rare monster, you kill it. 50% chance it dives into the ground and it resurfaces with a new rare monster. And it possesses it immediately. So you get 2 out of that, potentially, and then every time you kill that rare monster, it has a chance of going into a new one. That'd be cool. That's cool. Scarab of Hunted Traders is no longer obtained. Scarab of Bisection has been split into 2 separate scarabs. Scarab of the Sinistral, which grants 100% increased effective area prefixes, and area suffixes have no effect. And Dextral, which is 100% of suffix modifiers, but no prefix. Interesting. Kalguran's Scarab now grants area contains 2 additional ore deposit. Oh, there you go. Ruthless unaffected, previously 1. Okay. So they're adding more so that you can stack that chaining bonus up more. Torment Scarab is haunted by 4 additional... Okay, so it looks like they're just buffing area guarantees scarabs. So from 3 to 4, 2 to 3, 2 to 3, 4 to 5, and 3 to 4. Obviously, Ruthless is unaffected. And good morning, Voidless. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. And stretch done. Thank you. Hopefully you're having a good Monday so far. Added 5 new map modifiers that can roll on Originator, Influenced, and Nightmare maps. Funny how they don't say what they are. So the following maps have now been added back to the Atlas. Shrine, Fungal Hollow, Pen, Carcass, Lair, Bog, Terrace, Siege, Dungeon, Relic Chamber, Cold River, Coral Ruins, Wharf, Field, Plaza, Cage, Spider Lair, Courtyard, Graveyard, Gardens, Haunted Mansion, Reef, Dry Sea, Foundry, and Dig. Oh, they removed Waste Pool. Okay. Maps that have been removed from Atlas currently are Ragged Nest, Coliseum, Waste Pool, Thicket, Academy, Infested Valley, Cells, Desert, Bone Crypt, Toxic Sewer is gone too, Precinct, Shore, Spider Forest, Estuary, Channel, Bazaar, Glacier, Villa, Ramparts, Museum, Desert Spring, Temple, Underground River, Plateau, and Phasmagoria. Toxic Sewer and Waste Pool sucks. I like those. Especially for blight stuff. Drowning Orbs no longer move towards players if there's no other enemies in range of the player. Thank you. I appreciate that. Following map modifiers can no longer roll. Players and minions deal no damage for 3 out of 10 seconds. Periodically do no damage. Sucks. So, glad they removed that. Petrification statues. Obviously sucks. I'm glad they removed it. Reduced action speed for each time they've used a skill recently. Especially for builds that use a lot of skills. Can confirm that sucked. Players are marked for death after killing a rare or unique monster. Also really bad. Rare and unique monsters remove life, mana, and energy shield from players or their minions on hit. When a 5th impale inflicted on a player is inflicted on a player, impales are removed to reflect their physical damage multiplied by the remaining hits to that player and their allies within 1.8 meters. That's gross. Awakener's Desolation patches. If you throw traps, throw fewer traps, which is hilarious because a lot of these are just like, if you have this as your build, you can't run the map. Like any trap build that rolls that is just groaning. Player minions have less movement, attack and cast speed, and player totems take from damage players' totems take from hits is taken from their summoner's life instead, which was obviously really bad. Again, specific build targeting. So, glad they removed it. Atlas passive tree changes. Shadow Shaping, Bold Undertaking, and Singular Focus keystones have been removed. Added new keystone passive, Paths Not Taken, which grants divination cards found in your maps are from 2 random other maps instead of the one you're in. So I'm confused on this one, because they said it's essentially double. But that doesn't make sense to me, based off of how this is written. So, if I trigger a divination card drop, to me this means instead of the map you're on, it picks from 2 random maps. But if they mean doubling, and that's actually what it is, when the drop triggers, it would drop 2 cards from random maps instead of from this one. The wording is a little weird. Thanks, NVIDIA. We'll see. Synthesized Stability grants completing a map objective within a shaped region instead collapses different map. This is the one so that you can keep farming the same map while using the astrolabes. Overload circuits. Your maps are open with 5 additional random allocated notable skill passives. I mean, that could be really good, but also it could not be great at all. Especially if you're trying to cancel out stuff. Refiner's Bargain now has life force found in the maps is granted as a random crop instead at 250% of the value instead of 150, so 100% extra. But decreased sulfite found in your maps is granted as random ore instead of 10% of the value. Oh, that's interesting. So you could take this if you're trying to go for Calgar. So you could invest in sulfite, like on the passive tree, through Delve, the Delve nodes, and grab this so that instead of sulfite, it turns it into ore. That's interesting, actually. Huh. Ancient Conflict now grants Abyss Troves and Spires 10% chance to drop Abyss Scarabs instead of 3. So that's quite a big bump. From 3% to 10%. Ancient Decay now has 1 less node to reach the notable, which is good. 1 less point. And each small node now grants 25% slower expedition detonation instead of 5%. Oh, so that slows it down quite a bit now. I guess that gives you, like, more time to clear the previous pack that got resurrected by the detonation, so they don't stack up as much. That could be cool if you're having trouble clearing. 2 small passives leading to Ancient Decay have also been added, which grant 25% faster expedition detonation speed for those that want a change of pace. Okay. Oh, I see. So it's kind of like a branch path now. Cool. Chiseled Perfection has been renamed to Multiplying Modifiers. 3% increased effective explicit mods on your maps per fragment used with it. Deadly Prey now has beasts in your maps have Bestial Rage, and defeating beasts grants a stack of Hunter's Cunning. Previously, this passive granted beasts have 50% chance to break free and gain a stack of Bestial Rage, and defeating beasts grants a stack of Hunter's Cunning per stack of Rage. Oh, okay, so it just automatically has all of them. Oh, that's really good, isn't it? So all of them have Bestial Rage, and you get Hunter's Cunning every time you defeat them, instead of a 50% chance for them to break free after you defeat them the first time, and then you need to defeat them again. Yeah, cool. For Love of the Queen now has 25% chance for Val side areas to be alluring side areas, previously 20, so up by 5%. As well as maps have a 6% chance to contain an area instead of 4. So I see, this is where I'm thinking that they're adding all of the extra chance that they're removing from other things. Small passives are up to 3% from 2. So this is the one I was interested in too. Immune Response Atlas passive now has Blight monsters in your map spawn 150% faster instead of 100%, but no longer has Blight encounters in your map spawn 50% more non-uniques. Now, if I'm not mistaken, based on the enemies that you defeat in the lane in Blight, impacts the rewards from that lane, I think. I don't remember the specifics. So this allows you to clear them in your maps faster, but you have less monsters pumping the lane rewards. If that's my understanding of it. I don't remember specifically how that works, but I don't know. I don't mind taking more time to actually do them. I liked defeating more monsters, especially, so this helped even more because, especially at League Start, generally, I've played Righteous Fire. I just really like it. And more monsters that there are in the lanes means Hinakora has a much higher chance of popping. So you detonate the entire lane because there's more enemies to trigger off of. But now that that's gone, it's actually worse. I'm not sure how I feel about that. If you're someone that just likes map blasting, this is better. Like if you do map blasting, but you want to take the time to do Blight, 150% faster is significant. So you won't spend nearly as much time actually defending the Blight, and you can run through the map. So. The small passive's near immune response that granted Blight encounters in your map spawn more non-unique monsters now instead grant increased quantity of items dropped from blighted monsters in the maps. Huh. So this is something that is weird to me because they said something similar to the Hive monsters from Breach, which we haven't come across yet, but I'm assuming will be up soon. But the monsters themselves never dropped me anything. So maybe this is like the reward itself at the end of the map, like, or at the end of the waves. So they've taken the extra 50% non-unique monsters and granted increased rewards from just the existing ones. Because that is the small passives near immune response, so you have to take those to get up to it anyway. It also doesn't give me the percent, though. It doesn't say the percentage. Pillage and Plunder Atlas passive now has veiled items dropped by defeated Syndicate members, and your maps have a 5% chance to drop with a Fractured Veiled modifier, and no longer have 25% increased rarity of items of defeated Syndicate members in the map per equipment item they have. I think this is just awesome. Like, even though it's only a 5% chance, you're dropping a Fractured Veiled modifier. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's fractured, so it cannot be removed by, like, nullification or reroll, but you still get to pick one of 3 options through unveiling it. So that's just awesome. I mean, it sucks if you get like a not great unveil, but I guess that goes with any time you unveil it. That's cool though, I like that. The Sulfite Infusion Atlas passive now grants 400 Sulfite on completing a white tier instead of 200, 700 on a yellow instead of 350, and 1,000 on a red instead of 500. So they doubled it. So you have to complete less maps to refill your Sulfite if you prefer doing Delve, which I think is just good overall. I think for the people that, because I used to do Delve a lot, especially Deep Delve. The biggest pain of people that did that, though, was having to go into maps to get Sulfite to go back delving. So I'm glad. Small passives that grant increased Sulfite gain from veins and chests in your map now grant 6% instead of 3, so double again. Very nice. Now, this is Sulfite on completing the map, so this would not work with the other one that turns Sulfite into ore. Because that, I believe, is only the veins and chests in your map that convert. This is just given to you at the end of the map. Which would be funny if it did. Secret Stash now gives your maps 30% chance to contain a smuggler's cache instead of 12%. Okay, so yeah, they're really upping. Okay, you know what? I actually don't mind that. So they're making the Atlas tree much more the focus on guaranteeing content. Like from 4% to 10% for the small passives. If I remember correctly, I don't remember specifically. I think there's three nodes. Might be 2 nodes before it. So yeah, it looks like they're moving it to the Atlas themselves, which I kind of like, especially now that they're giving us more Atlas points to work with. Shaping the Mountain no longer has 10% chance on completing your maps to gain a free use of a random map crafting option, which obviously, because they don't exist anymore. It now has a 10% increased number of rare monsters in your maps. Ooh, I kind of like that, actually. Shaping the Skies no longer has 3% chance on completing maps to gain a free use of special map option, also has 10% increased number of magic monsters. Ooh. That's cool. I wonder if that applies to the wave of enemies that spawn in Blight. Because it's a global map modifier. I'll have to look into that. Because that's cool. That might be worth picking up then. Because even if it's, you know, like a couple extra rares or magics, that will add a lot to each lane. Straight and Narrow has been reinstated as the Atlas passive tree for standard leagues. Oh, okay. Trial and Glory passive now grants 25% chance for Labyrinth trials in your map to award an improved offering to the goddess instead of 20%. 5% up. And your maps have a 6% chance to contain a Trial of Ancestry, or Ascendancy, sorry, instead of +4. Small passives leading to it now grant +3% chance to contain a trial instead of 2. So, again, higher percent chance for them to contain the content. Two-Hearted Hunt now has Red Beast captured in your maps have a 100% chance to gain a modifier that provides a chance to not be consumed when sacrificed at the altar. Oh. These types of modifiers now only give up to a 20% chance for the beast not to be consumed, previously 40. Okay, so all beasts have, like, if you take this 100% chance to have a modifier that provides chance not to be consumed when sacrificed. So it'll always apply to the beasts, but it's a lower chance not to be consumed now. So essentially it'll be cheaper to get these because all of them will have it if you have this node. If you're farming beasts, obviously you'd probably get this, but it's a lower chance, so they're consumed more often. Fair. Unimaginable Horrors Atlas passive now grants Val's side areas in your maps have a 25% chance for rewards from them to be duplicated, so 5% extra. Small passives leading to the friends in high places now grant the following instead of heist contract level chance. Heist contracts found in your maps are 100% more likely to require lockpicking, brute force, or perception. Heist contracts found in your maps are 100% more likely to require demolition, counter-thaumaturgy, or trap disarmament. Or, heist contracts found in your maps are 100% more likely to require agility, deception, or engineering. Interesting. So you can kind of target which of the thieves you want to bring with you for those missions. Like agility, deception, engineering would be... I don't remember the specific names of them, but like the engineering is the bomb maker engineer. I don't remember her name. That's cool. Small passives leading to the No Honor Among Thieves now grant maps that contain smugglers' caches have a 20% chance to contain an additional one. Double the chance. It also now has your maps that contain smugglers' caches have a 15% chance to contain 6 additional instead of 5%. Wow, it's tripled. Okay. And then small passives prior to the backup cache notable now grant strongboxes in your maps have 30% increased chance to be artisan. This is a 25% increased chance in ruthless. Small Atlas passive that grant 2% chance for one monster in each of your map to drop an additional connected map now grant 2% increased maps found in the maps. Cool. So yeah, so obviously connected maps no longer apply because, you know, there's no location-based maps. Okay, I know a lot of people were interested in this too, which is Keeper of the Flame going to core. Thanks to your help, Aelith and the Order of the Keepers of the Flame have managed to curb the onslaught of the Breach Lords, but the fight is not over. Aelith and the Order have solidified their position and will continue offering assistance and rewards as you drive back the Highborn across Rayclast. You will now encounter Aelith for the first time at Mudflats, the entrance to the coast in Act 6, where she will enlist your help to fight against the Highborn. Breach hives and unstable breaches now spawn in areas from Act 6 Mudflats onward. Multiple unstable breaches can spawn in areas, however, breach hives and unstable breaches cannot both be present in areas. Okay, so you have to kind of get one or the other. Areas also cannot contain more than one hive. Okay, so you have to choose, like, do you want to do hives or do you want to do unstables? Hives in areas that have approximately 30% less radius, which is good. The visual size of walls has been reduced, and other objects within hive encounters. Walls within them can now be instantly destroyed by damage from players and their allies. This can only be done while the encounter... Oh, okay. So this can only be done when the encounter is not in progress. So that kind of curbs my problem that I had with this earlier, like when we looked at it the other day, but not entirely. So if you're walking forward and you're using a bow, let's just say bow skill, and you're using, like, I don't know, lightning arrow or something like that, you're chaining damage around. If there's an enemy there, you shoot them, you'll still destroy the wall because you haven't activated the breach yet. So it kind of still is a problem, but it's less of a problem now because it essentially locks the walls once you start. But still, you're going to have to be careful going up to them beforehand if you like doing the chaining and like a wall setup. We'll see. New currency, Flesh of Zesht, transforms a breach unique into its alternate version. Oh, that's cool. Breach stones are now non-functional. They can be traded to a vendor in exchange for a hive brain gland and not asking too many questions. Following items have been removed and existing items will be deleted upon logging in. Fleshgraft. Oh, they're getting rid of womb gifts. Growing womb gift, augmentation implant, exalted implant, regal implant, unstable implant, and all of the graphs, which makes sense because those are not following us in. Yeah. Hive brain glands are now directly open portals to a hive colony rather than being used alongside a map to add an entrance to the colony. That saves so much time. Thank you very much. Genesis tree is now fully grown by default, meaning all wombs will be accessible from the start, but you will still need to work with Aelith to unlock the points to allocate to use each branch to its full potential, which makes sense. Graph Blood has been renamed to Hive Blood. I guess graphs are gone, so yeah, it makes sense. Graphs can no longer be grown from the Genesis tree. The corresponding branch has been pruned. I like the choice of wording. Very funny. Graft Locker no longer stores graft items and has been renamed to the Womb Gift Locker as a result. Provisioning womb gifts can no longer grow weapons or quiver items on the tree. Interesting, okay. Generally reduce the total number of points you can earn in each Genesis tree subtree. Ah, okay. So you can't get weapons or quivers, and there's less high-end potential for how much choice you can do in each subtree. Several passives on the tree have been rebalanced to make the rewards more appropriate for a core league. Fair. There's also more variance at endgame for the item level of items generated from growing equipment looms on the tree, and removed most sources of guaranteed additional item levels. Okay. So like there was some nodes where it was like it generates with a +1 item level. So I'm assuming they've just removed that. Yeah, removed most sources of it. Breach Lord achievement now requires you to kill it that was Tool, and it that was Esh. Aelish no longer sells flesh grafts. Makes sense. High Blood no longer requires grafts to store and has a maximum capacity of 100,000. That was another thing I was like worried about when we saw that. Is there a limit? How big is the limit? 100,000 is plenty though. Like whenever we had like 8,000, that was a lot, and we spent it all on getting the equipment. So yeah, High Blood is shared across all characters within the league. Oh, that's awesome. So it's essentially just another gold resource then. Added several breach clusters to the Atlas tree, which is cool. Dimensional Foothold, which makes breach encounters in your map always hives. Enemy at the gates, which makes them always unstable. Existing Voldo maps with area contains the hidden. Now grant area contains the remembered. Voldo maps with the area contains a breach lord and area contains additional breaches now have area contains unstable breaches. Additional unstable breaches. All unstable breaches must be stabilized and closed in order to claim the reward from the area. Okay. So if you fail to stabilize one, you don't get the reward. Okay. All breach scarabs have been reworked, and the breach scarab has been renamed to Breach Scarab of the Hive, and as area contains a breach hive. Scarab of Snares has been renamed to Instability, and has area contains 2 additional unstable breaches. Scarab of Lordship renamed to Scarab of the Marshal, and is unstable breaches in the area contain a boss, and breach hives in the area lead to a hive fortress. Oh, so you can just guarantee it now. That's cool. So you could have like multiple unstable breaches, guarantee each of the unstable breaches contain a boss. That's pretty cool. Splintering has been renamed to the Incense Swarm, and all Aelith's skills in the area instead enrage the hive, increasing the difficulty and reward of subsequent waves. I'm interested to see what this is again, because they're not giving us numbers or anything like that. But like, I mean, I'm someone that played through Crucible League, right? So when you press and hold the button, it increases the difficulty and reward. Okay, but is that like 5% difficulty, 10% reward, or is that like increases difficulty of monsters by like 100%, right? So that could be interesting. Resonating Cascade now has unstable breaches in area are 10% faster for each unstable breach already opened. So you could try and open multiple at a time. And monsters from unstable breaches in areas have increased difficulty and reward for each unstable breach already open. So yeah, you kind of want to do like a run through and activate all the breaches at once. So you have the most difficulty and reward. All breach scarabs have a limit of 1. Oh. Except for breach scarab of instability, which is a limit of 2. Oh, so you can add 4 additional unstable breaches. So not including Atlas, you can have 5 from the get-go. So you have the base one or the base one from the Scarab, which guarantees it. And then 4 more additional from that. Breach substash of the fragment stash tab is now remove only. Yeah. Divination cards have been temporarily disabled. The Bargain, the Eye of Terror, the Obscured, and the Puzzle. Existing cards cannot be turned in currently. Foulborn Barracks Respite can no longer roll ignited enemies you kill explode, dealing 5% of their life as fire damage, which cannot ignite. That's funny. The Embalmer can no longer roll on killing a poisoned enemy. Nearby enemies are poisoned. I mean, I guess that makes sense. They also have the new weapon that they showed off that's poisoning based, so they probably want to push people to trying that out. Reverberation Rod now has socketed gems that are supported by level 1 greater spell cascade instead of awakened, because they removed awakened and they're going with the greater. Makes sense. Below changes can be applied to existing items with a divine orb and a side of regret. That's funny. Red Dream, which is the one that we used on Righteous Fire. Passives granting fire resist or all LE res in radius also grant max life at 50% from 75. Okay, so 25% nerf. Green Dream, which was mana, 100% to 75. And then Blue Dream, 100% to 75. Okay. So each of them got nerfed by 25%. They were pretty strong. I'm sad to see that happen, but I'm also not surprised. Hand of Thought and Motion now has 3% increased accuracy per... Oh. 3% increased accuracy per 25 instead of 5%. That's only a 2% difference, but that is a big change. Sorry, I guess it seems small, but that is a big drop. I wonder if that's still going to be really good for the accuracy stacking. Because it was accuracy stacking and then they converted to accuracy. I don't remember the passive node on the tree. One sec. Where is it here? There's the evasion one, which is to armor. Maybe it's an item I'm thinking about. But generally they converted the accuracy into damage. Oh, maybe it was... In one of the Huntress nodes? I don't remember. Let me see here. I don't remember. I just know that there was a really good combination with that before, and I'm assuming that's what they're trying to target with this. Choir of the Storm now has mana increased by 1% per 4% overcap lightning. Previously 50 of overcapped resistance. Or in other words, 1 per 2. So that's a 50% nerf on Choir of the Storm. Mana stackers or like Archmage is really getting hit hard on this. Because I think they mentioned there was a couple other things that they changed too. Dyed Bell now has 20 to 35% increased Warcry buff. Previously 25 to 50. So yeah, again, 15% down. Ghost Wraith has your maximum energy shield is equal to 40% instead of 50%. That's a 10% drop in raw energy shield value. Dune now has a 1% increased maximum energy shield per 25 strength in offhand, when in offhand, instead of 16. So that's quite a bit down. Not quite 50%, but... And then increased max mana per 18 instead of 12. So didn't suffer as bad, but still. Yeah, they're really hitting, like, stat stacking, I guess. I wonder if this is going to hit, like, armor stacking with replica Dream Feather. Not this one, sorry, not this one specifically, but just throughout all of the attribute nerfs and stuff like that. So this was not what I expected. Harbinger has been removed as a core league. As turmoil grips the Atlas, the Harbingers appear to have departed raid class, leaving only a cryptid message. Some alien language. While the Breachhead lies quiet for now, Beachhead. Sorry, my breach is in my brain now. Perhaps one day they will return. Fracturing orbs and ancient orbs are now able to drop as part of core loot pool. That's nice. Because it was really expensive to get fracturing orbs. So hopefully being in like the core drop pool now will make them a lot more common. Because I know some people that like doing Harbinger, but I particularly didn't, so I'm glad. Engineer orbs, Harbinger orbs, and orbs of Horizon can no longer be obtained, and existing ones will no longer function. Interesting. Ancient, Binding, Engineer, and Harbinger and Horizon shards can no longer be obtained. Existing items will be deleted upon logging in. So this is not a short-term thing. This is like long-term, they are not bringing Harbinger back. Now, I know most people don't play Standard. Like the league that things are always put into after the current league ends. But anyone that has stuff stored up, I'm assuming, is just going to get wiped. Following currency can no longer be obtained. Deregulation scroll, electroshock scroll, fragmentation scroll, hemocombustion scroll, specularity scroll, and timelight scroll. I don't even know if I've seen those. Divination cards that have been temporarily disabled are the Journey, the Messenger, and the Landing. Existing divination cards cannot be currently turned in. Unique fragments can no longer be obtained. First, second, third piece of Arcane. Same for Brutality, Direction, Focus, Storms, and Time. Following uniques can no longer be obtained. The Beachhead, Infused Beachhead, Enmity Divine, Flow Untethered, Fractured Spinner, Rippling Thoughts, Tempest Binding, and Unshattered Will. Oh, they just moved it. Okay. I wonder if these are different than these. Tempest Binding, Tempest Liberation. There is way too many uniques in this game. I love it. But these ones have been added to the core drop pool. Mortal Will, Shattered Divinity, Surging Thought, Tempest Liberation, Torrent Reclamation, and Yielding Mortality. All Harbinger related to Atlas passives have been removed. So I'm assuming the Breach ones are going to be where those ones were. Harbinger, Scarab of Obelisks, Regency, Warhordes can no longer drop. These will be converted into Veiled Scarabs upon logging in after the launch of 3.28.0. Harrowing Carapace Atlas Notable now grants Scarabs dropped in your maps have a 100% increased chance to be Divination Scarabs instead of increased chance for Harbinger. Added a new Atlas tree cluster, Unexpected Stranger, which causes your maps to be inhabited by additional rogue exile. Oh, that's cool, so you can guarantee it. Maps that had implicit modifiers for containing additional Harbingers now contain additional Tormented Spirits. Valdo maps that contained a Regal Harbinger to the area instead now add a Bismuth ore deposit. Obscure Delirium Orbs and Foreboding Delirium Orbs can no longer be obtained. Existing ones will drop Breach Rings. Interesting. Foreboding Delirium Orbs have been converted into Fine Delirium Orbs. Foreboding Incubators can no longer drop. Pre-existing ones will instead drop currency. Blueprints that had Harbinger rewards now have gold rewards. Trinkets that had a chance to receive Harbinger items when opening a reward chest in a heist now grant a chance for additional gold. I don't know if those are good. Like gold rewards. I mean, more gold is great and all that, but kind of sucks. Cavern Delve nodes no longer... Wait, Ruined Cavern Delve nodes no longer appear. Existing nodes have been converted to underground stashes. Removed most cases of currency shards dropping throughout the game. Vendor recipes for currency shards are unchanged. Okay. So they're clearing out most cases of shards dropping. Which I guess is just good. Like, would you rather get a shard and need to wait to get more shards to actually make the orb? Or just drop the orb? Alright, some more league changes. So, Settlers of Calgar. King's March has opened a shipping trade route to a new port, Mota Aro. Mota Aro. Shipping ores and bars in King's March will now return currency, while shipping crops return equipment. So yeah, we were right earlier. Favored resources can now be re-rolled at ports for 15,000 gold. Decent amount of gold, but honestly, the fact that we can do that's amazing now. Because I remember previous league, we filled almost everything, but we just didn't get some, like, specific ore in the maps for a long time. And we filled up, what was it, almost every other favored thing, but because we didn't have that resource in particular, we couldn't get bonuses for the others. So this really helps with that. Plus, if you have an, when they were showing the reroll, I don't know how this works exactly, because we haven't tried it yet, but there were different bonuses for favored items after rerolling. So if you have one that says, I don't know, Bismuth bar 15% bonus, and you reroll it, you could get 50% bonus next time. So it rerolls the bonus, not just what they're looking for, which is nice. So if you have the extra gold and you want to try fishing for a higher price value, you can. Again, nice. Shipments from King's March to Karul and Calgarin ports now grant specific tattoos or specific rune graphs. For example, shipments to Nakanu will now only reward tattoos that reprise strength passives. Oh, that's cool. So again, more specific farming of targeted things, which is nice. Still a bit of randomness if you get them or not, but technically it's also making it more likely because it's canceling out the other ones. So like, for example, if this one always drops strength and the other one drops agility, right? Or dexterity. If you're going on the dexterity node, it's cutting out the drops for strength and int. So technically it's a higher chance if it hits, like tattoos in general. Ports no longer have a bias towards a specific type of currency while shipping. Oh, okay. The Guild of Kingsmarch Smelters have devised new technologies for more efficient smelting. As a result, they can smelt ores into bars twice as fast, but will charge more gold for their service. I like the lore. That's cool. Due to reduced global demand for crops, Kingsmarch farmers' gold wage costs have decreased by 50%. I like that. Little lore sprinkle. Heightened danger within the Atlas, mapper gold wages have increased by 25%. Mappers can no longer return cluster jewels with over item level 83. I think that's fine. I don't see a problem with that necessarily. Okay, so when you are smelting the ore into bars, they smelt it twice as quickly, but their prices are higher. Farmer wages have gone down by half, which is crazy. Like, good. But costs for mappers have gone up by 25%, and they were already very expensive. So, honestly, not hiring mappers, at least at the start, is probably going to be better because that wage cost is going to be super high. I remember even just running a couple of them that we hired last league was super expensive. Like, that was the major portion of all of our gold sink in Kingsmarch was the mappers. So, interesting. Overall, though, like, it's easier to get gold, like, farmers, which is nice because that's equipment. And then obviously smelting things into from ore into bars is better because then that's more currency value. Cool. For bestiary, recipe for a stack of 3 Orb of Horizons is now a stack of 3 Orbs of Unmaking. 5 Kirak missions is now a nightmare map, which is not bad. A free use of each map crafting option is a valuable scarab. So this is also better than it seems here too. You have a very attractive voice. Thank you, I appreciate that. Love bestiary, it's my favorite mechanic. I generally haven't messed with bestiary too much. I just prefer some other content over it, not that it's bad in and of itself. But the one thing that's really interesting with this is you can duplicate them now. So remember, we went over earlier that they said that they changed the Atlas notable so that 100% of beasts have that bestial rage, but now have a 20% chance not to be consumed. So that actually increases, generally I'm guessing by 20%, the rewards of what you're getting out of it. Because you have a 20% chance that when you craft a nightmare map, you can craft another one. So it increases the supply of scarabs, unmaking orbs, and nightmare maps, which is kind of cool. I love collecting the animals and then visiting the petting zoo. Oh, I tell you, the first experience when, well, okay, this was before, also before Einar was actually capturing the beasts for you and you had to do it yourself. But I remember catching some of the beasts, entering the arena, and just being absolutely deleted. When I was trying to do the crafting, and obviously that wastes the beasts. You know, a little bit of bestial PTSD. I don't remember what they were, but the modifiers on them were just really scary. Recipe to increase the level of non-corrupted awakened gems by 1 now adds 500 million experience to an exceptional support. Reroll awakened support gem now sacrifices an exceptional gem for 3 high-level, high-quality support gems. Interesting. And the majority of the harvest beasts that can be captured by Einar for beast crafting are now much more common. Yeah, beast crafting got a huge buff this league. See, that was your mistake. You never let the animals out of the pen. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you must be happy then, because yeah, bestiary's definitely gotten some buffs. For betrayal, though, Syndicate members are seeking to capitalize on the shifting forces in the Atlas and now offer different rewards. It that fled in transportation now offers a trapped stash with Foulborn unique items. Ooh, that's cool. It that fled in fortification now offers a crafting spree with a bunch of random breach ring. Or sorry, with a random breach ring that you can use Foulborn currency on. That's cool. So I think the crafting spree is like you have a certain number of items and a certain amount of time to do it in. Like it, just as an example, you walk up to the bench, you have 20 nullification orbs, 20 chaos orbs, and 30 seconds. Go nuts. So that's cool. Especially because the breach rings, I don't think they've said the breach rings are nerfed. Well, we haven't gone to the items yet, but in the description of breach, it didn't say that yet. Rin in transportation now offers chests containing originator influenced maps, which is good. In research now offers a trapped stash with scarabs. Vegan in transportation now offers chests containing incubators. And Torah in intervention now offers chests containing cartography scarabs. So clearing out the Harbinger stuff. For Delve, Sulfite Scarab no longer has map owner gains 150% more sulfite. The amount of sulfite gained from veins and chests in map has been increased, scaling to be roughly doubled at the highest level, which we did see earlier. So the high end, instead of 500, you're getting 1,000 for red maps. But that's actually just by completing the map with that notable. So the veins and chests in the maps themselves have been increased. Which is cool because it's a 10% value now with the notable. So because the veins and chests have been increased in sulfite they give you, you actually gain more ore than you would previously. With the notable that transforms sulfite gained from the veins and chests into ore. So that's pretty cool. Change the way sulfite veins in maps scale with map item dropped quantity to be more similar with how settlers' ores scale with it. Fair. An expedition, Tujin no longer sells cluster jewels or abyss jewels in the shop. Aww. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I've ever seen a cluster or abyss jewel in the shop. Oh, sorry. I think I've seen abyss jewels. I don't think I've seen cluster, though. For Legion, possessed Legion monsters can no longer release tormented spirits when being broken out. they can still release them once broken out. Oh, okay. So what they're saying is, if there's a tormented spirit in someone, when you damage them enough to break them out, so like when the Legion encounter starts, if you kill them, they'll release it then, but not just when they're broken out in the time stop state, which is fair. Because generally, if I want to release someone with a tormented spirit in them, I want it to stay in that creature, because generally I'm assuming it would be a rare. Added a modifier to Ultimatum that prevents players from being able to block. Ooh, I don't like that. Oh no. That's a bad one. Oh. Alright, general player changes. Templar now wakes on the Twilight Strand more in touch with his faith. Starting skill gem is now Holy Strike, and the starting support gem is Hallow Support. Okay, that makes sense, obviously. Placements. Oh, this was a big one. So, totem placement speed now scales with the speed at which totems emerge. Ranged attack totems have less placement speed now. So, my understanding of this, unless this has changed, is that the placement speed is the speed that your character remains stationary while casting it. Like while they're doing the animation. But the emerge speed is after the placement. How fast do they stand up and before they're ready to fire, whether it be an attack or spell. Range attack totems have a base placement of 0.5 instead of 0.35. So this is lowered. But I wonder if this is counterbalanced by the scaling of both. Let me see really quick here. Which is the one that had... One sec. Trying to find... Yeah, okay, so Shamanistic Fury is one here. So 25% increased totem placement speed. So now it's 25% better placement speed and 25% increased emerge speed. So it's actually 50% fast 50% faster. I don't know if there's like a specific conversion that might be more accurate, but you're cutting down both speeds now with just one stat. And I think there's probably more that I don't know off the top of my head here. Oh yeah, placement speed here. Next to, actually here, let me bring it in a little bit. Increased placement speed. Increased placement speed, that's already what? 45, 70% just with these two nodes. That's attack speed. So was it 70, 80, 90, 100%? So that would be 50% faster, right? For 100%? Yeah. So that's pretty crazy. So when you think about it, this is actually kind of a buff, but not really. In the sense of if it's 50% faster, this will actually be 0.25 placement speed if you get all of those. So it'll actually be better than 0.35. Again, I don't know if there's like diminishing returns on it. I haven't messed with these numbers too much. But to me, that seems pretty decent. Which is cool, because if people remember, actually this doesn't phase me, because I prefer using spell totems, which a lot of people don't really use from my understanding. What I like doing is our Macross Missile Massacre with our cat totems missiles. So this is overall better, because it keeps your character stationary for less time, because the cast speed is now scaling, right? The placement. And the emerge speed is faster, which means faster uptime on your damage, because it's less of a time delay from when your totems start attacking. I hope I'm understanding this correctly. But that's cool. Channeling spells such as Lightning Tendrils of Escalation and Blight will now channel towards enemies from further away when using totems. Oh, okay, that's cool. Because that's what we used to do with Contagion, I believe, is use Blight on a totem and we would cast like Contagion and Essence Drain manually. So that's cool. Intelligence now inherently grants 1% increased max energy shield per 10. Oh. They are really hitting intelligence, well, stat stacking, particularly intelligence. Because this is... yeah, ES nerf in general, but especially more for int stacking. Like, that's double for the same. That's rough. Now, to be fair, I haven't done stat stackers. I'm trying to remember. I don't even know if I've done a stat stacker. I don't think so. I mean, I did the armor stacker when we were doing Delve, but that was when... that was before the retaliation skill changes. So he was doing crazy damage with an armor stacker with replica feathers. But most of the skills were the automatic retaliation skills that scaled off the armor damage as well. So that was really cool. I was sad about the retaliation changes. But, yeah. I mean, it's a 50% nerf, obviously. Actually, it might calculate to be more of a nerf, because it's not just increased maximum energy shield, like raw value, because that's without applying resistances or anything else on top of it. Or any other, like, layer of defense that you have, right? So if you have, say, a 50% resistance, 1,000 energy shield versus 500 energy shield, you're going to get like an exponential more than the base value, because you're getting regeneration from sources. So the increased value isn't just 500 more ES, it's a longer duration of time before it reaches 0 that you can recharge it, but also a higher single target resistance, in the sense of if something hits you for 700, you'll be dead with 500, but you won't with 1,000, which makes sense because, you know, higher number better. But yeah, that sucks. I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of leagues have had like stat stackers recently, so I wonder if they're just doing this more to kind of change it up a little bit. Because I know Energy Shield has been like the main defensive layer for a lot of people, like stacking Energy Shield with Chaos Inoculation has been like a mainstay for quite a while. And as someone that likes my health and armor, I'm fine with that. I mean, evasion, I think, is still in a bit of a rough spot comparatively, but mostly because it's a entropic, I think is the correct term, defense. So every time you dodge, it's more likely to hit you next time. Huh. All sources of reduced reflected damage taken have been replaced with a percentage of damage cannot be reflected. Some legacy items will still have old stats, however. Huh. I wonder if that's better. So, if you take reduced damage, I don't know if the reflect happens before or after the enemy resistances. So if I deal 100 damage, but they have a 50% resistance, I would reflect 50 damage. Or is it because I dealt 100 damage, I'm reflected 100? Because that would mean the difference if this is good or not. I generally just avoid maps that have, you know, reflect damage modifiers, so I'm not too used to actually dealing with this. Be interesting to check out. Skill gem changes. Okay, here we go. Holy Slam skill used by Herald of Purity minions and Dominating Blow has 32% more AoE. Absolution and Absolution of Inspiring now have a base debuff duration of 3 seconds. That's awesome. Okay, so for people that don't know, Absolution is like an attack that your character does. And it applies this debuff. Previously, it only lasted for 1 second. The enemy has to die while under the duration of that debuff in order for them to spawn the Sentinel of Absolution, which is the minion. So one of the previous things that really sucked is if you had slower skills or slower attack speed for whatever reason, the debuff would actually end right as either you or your other minions or damage over time or something killed them. So you wouldn't get a minion out of it. So tripling it to 3 seconds is huge. More quality of life than anything else, I would say. Because it's just the duration of the debuff. The debuff itself, I don't think does anything. It's just, is this debuff on them when they die? If it is, spawn that minion. And the base minion duration of 15 instead of 10. So yeah, they upped it by 50%. Sentinels of Absolution now have a 44% more AoE with their empowered Lightning Blast skill and deals 40% more damage. Not increased damage, more damage. Very nice. I was considering doing kind of paladin-y build, especially for this league where all the holy stuff came out, but I mean, that's cool. I do like my minions. Animate Guardian of Smiting now has minion deals between 0 and 76% more damage, up from 38. Wow. Double. Smite attack now has an impact radius of 2.1 instead of 1.5. Okay, so up by 0.6. Charge dash description has been updated to clarify that the more damage while channeling if illusion has finished moving only applies to damage from hits. This is not a functional change, just a clarity. Consecrated Path now has 273 to 468 effectiveness of base and added damage. Up from 227 to 417. So 51% high at top end. Quality now deals up to 15% more damage with hits to closer targets, so up to 5%. And again, it is more instead of increase, so better. Consecrated Path of Endurance quality now provides more damage to closer targets, so same thing. Detonate Debt of Scavenging now has 70% less damage with ailments. Ooh. That kind of sucks. So it only deals 30% damage with ailments now instead of 40%. Dominating Blow. Chance to summon a normal sentinel on hitting a unique monster now also applies when hitting rare monsters. Oh, that makes it so much better. Because previously, if you didn't have the sentinels up on killing stuff, like when you enter a map and there's a rare right away, it would kind of be a problem. Just because you couldn't get them up as easily, but now you can. Debuff duration is now 3 seconds instead of 1, and duration is 30 seconds instead of 20. Wow. Absolution and Dominating Blow. Cool. I love when minions get some love. Dominating Blow of Inspiring debuff duration is also 3 seconds from 1, and duration is 30 from 20. Earth Shatter now has effectiveness of added damage 158 to 329. Oh, that went down quite a bit. 171, 393. Ooh. Wow. 66%, I think. Wow. Energy Blade quality now provides buff grants up to 10% increase attack speed instead of buff grants up to 5% more energy shield. Oh. Okay. So again, we are seeing something else lose max energy shield gain. Now, increased attack speed's nice, don't get me wrong, but this plus the intelligence change, yeah, you're losing a lot of max ES. Holy Flame Totem now fires 3 to 6 projectiles. Oh, they just added more levels. Or more shots at higher levels. Now has an AoE gem tag. That's cool. Gives you a reason to actually level it up, instead of just using it like as you're leveling through the start of the campaign area. That's cool. Holy Flame Totem of Ire now deals 20% more damage at all levels and has an effectiveness of added damage of 40% instead of 35, and also AoE. Nice. Orb of Storms can now be supported by Spell Echo. That's cool. Penance Brand now deals 10% more damage at all gem levels. I used to do Brand a decent amount. I liked it. I haven't done one in a while. With the new support gem, or the greater support gems, I wonder if there's going to be more supports that work with them versus the only one that we saw in the trailer, which was the Lightning Hand graft ability. Is it Grasping Hands? I don't remember the name of it. But that'd be cool. Effectiveness at added damage at... Wow, they buffed it. So Penance Brand went up to 630% from 570, so 60% damage up. Actually higher, no longer has a 30% less damage with ailments. Quality now deals up to 15% more damage with hits against branded enemy. So that's up from 10. So you're doing more raw damage, and you're doing more damage with ailments caused by that damage because the reduction's just removed. That's cool. Penance Brand of Conduction now activates every 0.1 seconds while attached, instead of 0.15. Deal 30% more damage with hits against them, instead of 15%. Wow. And then Dissipation now activates every 1 second while attached, instead of 0.75. So slower to activate. And now has pulses deal 20% more damage with hits and ailments per energy after the first, instead of 30. 20% more damage. Okay. Quality now deals 15% more damage with hits against them instead of 10. So Dissipation lasts longer, triggers slower, but has more damage with hits against them during its uptime. Portal is no longer has its casting interrupted by self-damage. Okay, that's nice. Purifying Flame of Revelations now has a mana cost of 5 to 20 instead of 6 to 25. Now has a base cast time of 0.6 instead of 0.7. And Shockwave now deals 150% more damage instead of 110. Okay. So this was a big change coming up here. Raised Spectres no longer gain a hidden more elemental damage bonus when converting physical to elemental. They now scale up their monster level more at gem levels past 20. A gem level 30 Raised Spectre is now level 85 instead of 81. Which is a tremendous difference. It only sounds like it's 4 levels, but because the stats are like a multiplier up, I don't remember exactly. I think it's like 4,000 or over 4,000 for Frostbearers, I think. If I'm remembering correctly. It's like a crazy amount more. Hold on, actually let me pull it up really quick here. Let me see here. Let me just grab... where is it? Sorry, one sec here. Where is... Here we go. All right. So let me grab this really quick. So, Forge Frostbearer. We're going to select 81. Okay? So, now, I'm just using Frostbearer because it's one of the most used specters, at least for damage output. So, at level 81, we have 1124 raw damage. But the thing about the Ice Mortar, which is their normal attack, is that it clusters. It can shotgun enemies, so you have more projectiles. So I think it's times 4. So we'll just say 4,000 right now, okay? And then if we go to 85, it doesn't seem like much, but that's an extra 300 base damage. Per shot. In its... Oh, I guess that's its raw damage. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at the spell specifically here. Right? So let's see, a calculator really quick. Okay, so it's what? 3,098, 46, 47. Divided by 2. Wait, what? It didn't clear, of course. Plus. There we go. That's better. So your average damage per hit with the Ice Mortar, and keep in mind this is per shot, and that it has multi-shot, okay, is 3872. Now, if we jump up to 85, so the top end is 4,600. It's 57. So this is already, we know is going to be way higher. But it's 38, 57, plus 57, 86, divided by 2. So yeah. An extra 1,000 damage per projectile. And if you're adding 3 projectiles with like multi-shot, it's an extra 4,000 damage. And that's raw damage. Right? Because this is not calculating any sort of minion damage increase, anything like that. Yeah, it's just from those 4 levels, from level 81 to 85. Is crazy. All right. But yeah, I'm really happy about that. Again, most people know I like my specters, I like my minions and stuff like that, so this is really cool. It makes me want to experiment with specters as well. All right, sorry, tangent. Over. Static Strike now has a base enemy zap range of 2.5 meters instead of 2. Base duration of 4 seconds instead of 3. And beams deal 30% less damage, previously 40. So, higher zap range, higher duration, and less damage penalty. Overall, just straight buff. Stormbrand now deals 3 to 10 lightning damage at 1 instead of 3 to 8, and 150 to 449. Wow. way higher base and high-end lightning damage. Stormbrand effectiveness of added damage is now 45 to 55 instead of 30% at all. And deals 80% more damage with hits against branded enemy at all levels instead of 80 to 130. Okay, so it's got less hits against branded enemies from down from top end 130 to 80 technically, but they've increased all the raw damage values and the added damage scaling by a significant amount from 30 to 55, so 25% up. Indecision quality now deals 15% more damage with hits instead of 10. Stormburst now places an orb immediately on casting rather than the first orb being placed one cast into the process. So just you cut out that first second of nothing happening. Holy Relic Nova skill now grants 9 to 985 life regeneration per second to minions. Wow, that's high-end buff. Holy. Literally. So pretty much from 460 to almost 1,000. Wow. Sweep has been reworked, which is now called Holy Sweep, which I'm actually interested in trying this one out too. It swings a two-handed mace or staff in a circle, calling down holy hammers to randomly land on a number of enemies struck. I'm interested to know how this works. Is it a chance per enemy struck? Or is it hits the first few enemies, but with like a maximum cap to it? They don't say. Hits from these holy hammers cannot be evaded. The one reason it really, I really want to know this though, is that if it's a chance per target hit, this might be really good for Blight. Because you're stacking up a lot of enemies on top of each other, and they did say that every separate hammer impacts damage. So it does shotgun. So if you have let's go over the top. Let's say you have 90 enemies standing in the same area, and you hit them, every single hammer does damage to all 90 of them. Instead of just one instance of it dealing damage. So the more targets you have in the area where the hammer comes down, plus the more hammers that come down, multiplies the damage up. So I'm definitely going to check that out once it's released, unless they put out some description of it earlier. Thunderstorm. The explosion now deals 300% more damage with hits and ailments. It was previously described as simply more damage, but was only applying to damage from hits. Oh, okay. So 300% more damage from hits was already there, but now it's also including ailments, which is nice. Oh, so Viper Strike is another one that got apparently nerfed quite a bit. Now has 30% less attack speed while dual wielding, and 20% less damage with hits while dual wielding, matching the regular Viper Strike. This modifier now explicitly states that it only applies to damage with hits rather than being ambiguous. Okay. I didn't use this when it was super strong. It just wasn't my style. But to me, it definitely seems a nerf because it was obviously way better than the normal Viper Strike previously. But now it's more in line with the original. Viper Strike of the Mamba now cannot inflict multiple poisons in the same hit. As additional ways to apply multiple poisons in a single hit would otherwise have to be significantly weakened for the sake of this skill. Okay. Oh, so for example, the new unique sword, two-handed sword, where it applies 3 additional poisons per hit, would count with this. This does not affect the skill's normal dual-wielding behavior, as it causes a single hit and therefore applies a single poison, based on combined damage of both weapons. Okay. So, it's, to me, it sounds just more in line with everything else. But it was really strong before. But those that played it before when it was super strong probably see this as a big nerf to it. Which is fair. Winter orb projectile speed modifiers now affect the time it takes for them to impact the ground. Normally, projectile speed had no effect on it. Oh, interesting. So if you have extra projectile speed, you can actually cause the damage to apply faster. Cool. All right, we got some Val gem changes too. Val Domination. Ascended Sentinels now get +2 radius per stage with their Sunder ability instead of +1, so double. And now deal 300% more damage instead of 200. Wow. So I don't remember if it was Absolution or Domination. It's like you do an enhanced attack and you get like a larger, like a powerful version of the minion. And I think the other one buffed the minions that existed. I haven't really used the Val versions of these too much. Ascended Sentinels now deal 300% more damage instead of 200 and have their base duration of 20 seconds instead of 15. They have 44% more AoE with their Lightning Blast Cascade. So I think that's the same as the normal version. But obviously 100% more damage here is nice. Support gem changes. All awakened support gems can no longer be obtained except for awakened in power, enlighten, and enhance. Okay, so they left in power. Obviously enlighten too, but empower is the main one for me that I see a lot. Divination cards have been temporarily disabled. The Cheater, the Desecrated Virtue. Existing divination cards cannot currently be turned in. I wonder if it's... So some have been permanently removed, some just currently cannot be turned in. I wonder if there's, like, issues with them for some reason. Chain Support has a cost and reservation multiplier of 140, down from 150. Okay. Less punishing. Labyrinth, the gem craft outcome to exchange a support gem for its awakened version has been removed. Ooh. Right. For exchanging a support gem for a random exceptional support gem, instead now it states you will receive a random Empower, Enlighten, or Enhance support gem. Oh, okay. So it's just clarifying it, pretty much. And you get one of those three options, which is really nice. Greater versions of supports no longer work alongside their non-greater version. Oh, okay. In a similar way to how awakened supports did not work with the corresponding non-awakened version of it. In the case where both versions of a support are socketed, the greater one takes priority. So, like, if there's a greater multiple projectiles, you can't also have the standard multiple projectiles. Existing supports affected by this change include... oh, there you go. Multiple projectiles and greater multiple projectiles, volley and greater volley, spell echo and greater spell echo. Lesser multiple projectile supports has been renamed to multiple projectiles. Oh, okay. So instead of lesser, there's the basic version, and then there's the greater. Auto Exertion now has a mana reservation of 20% instead of 15. Ooh. That's another nerf. For, Warcry, right? Because I think Warcry builds with Auto Exertion. I think I'm thinking of the right one. Let me see. Yeah. Reserves mana for each supported Warcry skill to automatically trigger it off cooldown. Yeah. So if you want it to be automated, you're going to have to make up for that 5% of your mana. which could be difficult. Because I think they reserve either all the mana and some health, or vice versa. I don't remember exactly. Again, Warcry is not one of my styles I play, but... Overexertion now grants supported attacks 7 to 10% more damage for each Warcry exerting them. From 12 to 8. Wow. Okay, down quite a bit. And supported attacks deal 14% more damage if exerted instead of 10 at all levels. Okay. So less damage bonus for multiple Warcries exerting, but they deal more damage if exerted, 4% up. No longer displays as supporting triggered attack skills which cannot be exerted, such as Shockwave. Ascendancy changes. Okay, this was a big one too, because RF. For Chieftain, Hinekora, Death's Fury Notable, which is the Explode, now has enemies you or your totem skill have a 10% chance to explode, up from 5, dealing 250% of their max life as fire damage, down from 500. Generally, I think this is a buff. Right? Because you're doubling the chance. One of the biggest things that sucks is running through a pack or a lot of packs and just not ever getting the chain explode. Now, it is half the damage, but it's 250% of their max life. I think above 250% is just overkill for most things. So, honestly, I just see this as a double chance to explode. I don't think the damage down from 500 to 250, other than like maybe some specific stuff, like for example, there's items that spawn, like flasks that spawn enemies that you can like kill, but I think those only had like 1 health anyway. I don't know how much health they had, like the worms. Maybe there's like an outlying example that I'm not thinking of or I don't know of, but just for general mapping or like other content, even Blight, like this is great. Definite plus. Guardian got a lot of changes. Sentinel of Radiance minion no longer has duration, it's now a permanent minion. Thank you. And has approximately 36% more movement speed. Awesome. He is no longer as slow. He was a lumbering boy. Note the Sentinel still doesn't persist between areas. That's fine. That's nice, though. So you don't have to keep recasting it anymore. Because you used to be able... I don't remember the duration, but I think it was like a... Was it a minute? Was it 60 seconds? Or something like that? I can't remember. But yeah. Plus the movement speed. I don't know if the 36% brings it up to like a player movement speed level of you don't need to use Convocation on it anymore. So for those that don't know, Convocation is where you activate the ability and it summons all of your active minions to your location. And normally, because it was so slow, you used to have to activate that over and over again to get it summoned to the new area because it was so slow it couldn't keep up. I don't know if 36% bumps, like I don't know where it bumps it up to when it comes to like player movement speed. But it is more and not increased movement speed, so I'm assuming that makes it much quicker. Effects that grant random shrine buffs such as Guardian's Harmony of Purpose Notable or the Golden Charlatan Unique Sword instead now grant Greater Shocking, Freezing, and Skeletal Shrine instead of the regular versions. Oh, so it grants the greater version instead of normal version. That's cool. Time of Need Notable now has every 4 seconds remove curses and ailments from you. previously removed curses and elemental ailments. Oh, so it affects like chaos ailments and bleed as well now. Because bleed, I think, was classified as a physical ailment, right? And obviously chaos damage over time, like poison, is not elemental. It's chaos. That's nice. Guardian now has an additional 2-point ascendancy notable, Marshal of Divinity. Grants inflict Hallowing Flame on melee hit, and you can inflict +1 Hallowing Flame on enemies, and gain 10% of physical damage as extra lightning damage for each of the Hallowing Flames that have been removed by an ally recently, up to 80%. Which could be crazy. Because I think it said you can inflict up to 3 on an enemy at a time, so this bumps it to 4. I think. I don't remember where my brain's reading that from. But when you think about it, if you attack a group of enemies and your minions attack them, like that could already be 50%. Like if there's 5 enemies, you attack them, each of them has 1 Hallowing Flame. Your minions pop them, 50% physical damage as extra lightning. Now, do keep in mind it says recently, which is generally, I believe, 4 seconds. So you need to keep doing it to keep it up, but that's 80% of your physical damage as extra lightning. It's not conversion. This is better than that. This is just adding more on top. That's nice. Warden, Lessons of the Season now grants -25%, or not, actually no, it's flat. -25 damage taken of each damage type from spell hits per bark, instead of 15 cold, fire, lightning. Oh. Wait, that's just better overall. Not only is it a higher damage reduction, it's all damage instead of just elemental. Nice. And then Avatar of the Wilds now grants 100% more elemental damage when unbound, up from 80, so 20% more. And it is more, not increased. So that's cool. Opportunistic Notable now for the Assassin now provides damage cannot be reflected instead of damage from crits cannot be reflected. So that's just better because it's for everything. Saboteur, Perfect Crime Notable, now has 30% less damage with triggered spells. Previously 35. Clockwork now has 50% increased cooldown recovery rate, up from 40. Calculated Risk Notable has damage from enemies hitting you is unlucky. So for those that don't know, unlucky just means essentially it rolls it twice, takes the worst result. And lucky is the opposite. So, for example, this would be way better against lightning damage, because lightning damage has a very low end, but generally a very high end. So like if they roll max damage and low damage, that could be the difference of like taking 1,500 damage and taking like 80. So that's nice. Generally, the other damage types are pretty close together for their low and high end, but still, that's really good. And I don't know this, but I'm assuming this is also before critical hit. So it's the raw damage down. I'm not sure. Leech of the Primordial Notable no longer has 50% increased effective buffs by golems. Right, people were saying that Elementalists got hit really hard. Wait. Wasn't this like double before? Hold on. Leech of the Primordial before, like a couple leagues ago when they added it, I think it was 100%. Didn't it drop to 80 and then 50 and now it's just gone? Wow. Okay. That's unfortunate, because I think the golems are worse from what I remember as well now. Like their buffs are less impactful. Wow. Elemental's getting hit hard. The Golemancer. The Ascendant. The Assassin notable now provides damage cannot be reflected instead of crits with them as well. Okay, makes sense. All right, we have some bloodline changes. King's Might, Heritage, and Contempt bloodline passives now grant their respective aura effect while you have minimum Frenzy, Endurance, or Power charges respectively. Previously, no. Oh. So that's really good. So, for example, I believe... Where is it here? Let me bring this up here. I believe it's you, right? Wait, which is the one with power charges? Or minimum charges? It's been a while. I thought it was you first. Oh, here it is. Conviction of Power. +4 to minimum endurance charges and power charges, and +1 to maximum. So what this change is saying is that you can have up to your minimum and it still be affected, which is way better. Because I think there was an item that says you count as full on none, or you count as none on full. I can't remember which one it was. So you could get around this before, but now you can actually still have it. So if you have something that brings down your maximum, for example, your minimum is 4 and your maximum is 4 because it cancels out the +1. So you could always have 4 endurance charges and 4 power charges, and this would still apply. The aura effects. Yeah, that's cool. As long as you're adding minimums, you can increase this further. That's cool. Breach Lord. Overworldly appendages notable has been renamed to Cryogenesis and now grants if intelligence is your single highest attribute, all added damage is treated as added lightning. If dex is your highest, damage is treated as cold. Well, that's cool. So it's like a total conversion of added damage. I wonder if that would be cool if you had multiple support gems that have flat added damage to them then. Like you could have added fire, added cold, added lightning. And then if your whatever your weapon is has added damage, as you have the ability, which we saw earlier, which added lightning percent of physical. And say you were using the cold damage, all of those, instead of being different elements, would all be added cold damage. So if you're building cold damage up, that's pretty good. I don't know how big of a difference this will be, but it sounds nice to me. Because then it would also count... So one of the new support gems was the Frost Mage support, which is adding cold damage based on your max mana. I wonder if you could then combine it with Archmage support. Right? Because you could add it as cold damage and then convert it to added lightning. Or I wonder if this is treated as in if you have bonuses it applies, but it still does the base damage. So all added damage is treated as added lightning. So if you have increases to lightning damage, it'll apply to the other damage, but it won't change the type. That I'm not sure about. Because this doesn't say converted to or changed to. They specifically is treated as. I'll have to look at that again later. Look for clarification. For Katarina, the Prolonged Servitude Bloodline skill now has minions deal 20% more damage while they're at low life instead of 15, which works with the they cannot die. They stay at 1 for a while. For Delirium, Misty Reflection skill granted by It Wasn't Me Bloodline now has a duration of 3 seconds instead of 2, and is 5% of your max life, previously 10. Oh, weird. I didn't really see anyone use this, so I'm not sure how well it was actually doing. But they upped the duration, but halved the life, so... I don't know if this is the exploding one. Hold on, let me check. I never really got into the bloodlines too much. Delirium. Dash backwards, leaving a short-lived mist copy of yourself that taunts enemies for a short duration. It can be damaged by enemies, and copies that are killed by an enemy will apply a debuff in the area that makes them take 30% increased damage and deal 30% less damage for 4 seconds. Okay, so by lowering the health, but increasing the duration, they are making it more likely that it will blow up. So if you're using this skill, you are more likely to actually keep that debuff up on your enemy. Or proc it to begin with. For Feyrul, Primal Roar now provides 4% increased attack speed per minion, up to 80% instead of 2%. Oh, wow. So they doubled it. I mean, that's still what? You still need 20 minions out to max it. But I mean, that's not that difficult, right? Especially if you're using something like Val Skeleton. Because that would just summon like a ton of skeletons around you. That's interesting, actually. Summon Spectral Tigers from the Hunt Leader bloodline. Passive skill now have 50% less max life, but deal slightly more damage and have increased attack speed. They now display their max life in the character panel. Oh, okay, cool. So I guess they were too tanky. So they upped the damage and attack speed of them, but lowered their max life so that they are harder to keep alive. But I think those ones heal themselves if they're resummoned at maximum, right? I think it's this one. Trigger level 20 Summon Tiger on critical strike. Dies after a duration. Each tiger grants you a buff that increases crit strike chance, attack, and cast speed. If you have the maximum number, refresh the duration and life of an existing one instead. Yes, okay. So, I mean, that's not bad though. Like, they can take less burst damage or like heavy hits from targets. But have more damage and attack speed themselves. That's cool. Lycia. Sinner Saint now converts 67% of fire, cold, and lightning to chaos instead of 50, so up by 17%. I see what you did there. Nameless. Unlit Silhouette now has skills gain added chaos damage equal to 25% of life cost if life cost is not higher than the maximum you could spend. So 5% up. That's not bad. I don't know if it's worth... like 2 ascendancy points, but like imagine this over like Sentinel or something like that. Allroth, Boon of the Mountain, now grants 50% less damage taken from damage over time while you have Unbroken Ward, up from 30. I wanted to kind of make a ward tank with Allroth, but I never got around to it. So it's cool that they're buffing it. Boon of the Sun now grants 30% faster restoration of ward per enemy hit taken recently from 20%, so 10%. Enhanced Starlight grants 70% increased ward from equipped armor items, up from 40. Wow. Ward Shatter triggered by the volatile runes now has 200% more damage if ward has not broken in the past 2 seconds. Wow, up from 80, 120% increase. It also deals 160 to 240% of ward as base spell physical damage, previously 250 to 300. Okay, so lower base physical spell damage, but higher bonus after 2 seconds of not breaking. And has a cooldown of 0.15 seconds, previously 0.5. Ward Shatter can no longer apply to the Enervation debuff to player characters. Oh, interesting. Okay. Huh. That makes me want to try it more this league now. Because we get a lot of ward gear because we participate in Calgar, like Settlers content. So we can find the ward gear in the crates and supply dumps. I don't remember what they're called, that they leave behind. So that's possible. Oh, well, I guess that's more... Is that I guess that's more expedition. I just remember seeing it a lot with the ore when we were doing the ore mining, but... Vivid Cat Bloodline now provides 50% increased effective marks while you have elusive instead of 50 increased stealth while elusive. Now that's very good. So increased stealth while elusive. Stealth, if I'm not mistaken, is just the range at enemies aggro onto you, which is honestly not that useful. But 50% increased effective marks is really nice. Like, let's just pull up like a random mark skill here. Mark. Okay, so let's say Poacher's Mark. Instead of 50, it's 75 life when hit by attacks. Instead of 20%, it's 30% physical damage reduction on enemies. Minus 30%. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty significant, especially, I mean, look, 29% round it to 30%, an extra 15 to 14%. 30, 40, 40. No, that's not right. 30. No, it is. Yeah, 43%. Increased damage from projectile hits. I wonder if it also increases the second line. Projectiles which hit cursed enemies split towards 2 additional targets. I wonder if that affects it, so it would jump up to 3. 3 additional targets. It is a fork effect, which is generally 2, so I don't know if that's like hard coded, but it would be cool if it split towards 3. All right, we got passive skill tree changes. 2 new clusters at the west of the Templar starting area, one granting accuracy and effect of consecrated ground, the other granting accuracy and attack AoE. New protection mastery, which provides 50% of damage from your hits cannot be reflected, replacing mastery that granted 65% reduce effective wither on you. I would just prefer to not run maps that have damage reflection. Like I'm trying to think here, like, do I just toss the, you know, the T5 Waystone or whatever and grab another one? Because before it was a little bit harder to decide, because it's like if you needed that particular map completed, but you rolled, I don't know, physical damage reflect, you would try to not use shield charge in that map because it would obviously reflect. So you would still do them sometimes. But I don't know if that's... And it's only hits, so it doesn't count damage over time and stuff like that. Or AoE. Defiled Forces no longer refreshes duration of Ignite on enemies you curse, and instead has curse skills have 15% increased cast speed. Huh. Okay. It's increased, not more. Evasion and Energy Shield Mastery now has 1% increased evasion per 10 intelligence. Oh. So that's also double. So instead of 1% per 5, it's 1% per 10, so it's half as effective. I did notice that all of these debuffs to stat stacking is so far specifically versus intelligence. Like, we haven't seen anything for dexterity or strength, generally. Fire Mastery that granted 50% chance to refresh Ignite duration on critical strike has been replaced with a Mastery granting 12% to fire damage over time multiplier. And increases Ignite duration on you. The Ignite duration on you is not necessarily a bad thing. Especially if you have, like, say the new sword that they showed off is like you spread the Ignite on you in a radius. So if you hit a really high Ignite and it's reflected to yourself, you increase the duration of that Ignite on you by 50%. So you're spreading that big Ignite hit for 50% longer. And 12% to fire dot multi is really nice. It's not increased, not more, it's 2, so it's a flat additional value, which is really nice. Again, I'm mostly looking at these also from like a one-to-one point of view, not from like a build point of view all the time, because I kind of have generally more weird, other than like Righteous Fire, something like that. I like doing weirder or less common builds to them, or do them in a weirder way. So someone that actually runs a full Ignite build would probably be able to explain the hyper specifics better. But for most of this, so it's like you're kind of missing the context. It's like If I see something that says increase cast speed by 20%, but, you know, 200% reduced attack speed, to me that sounds really bad. But if you're a player that knows that in a build that is pretty strong, the attack speed going down doesn't matter at all because you're never using it, you're only casting. So they have more context that I might not be aware of. So just something to keep in mind. Unique item changes though. The kitchen knife now has on killing a poisoned enemy, enemies within 3 meters are poisoned. Wow, they doubled the range. And doubled the life regeneration. Allies regenerate 400 life per second instead of 200. Existing items are affected by this change. They also have 17 to 27 chaos resist, up from 8 to 12. Wow. They can be updated with the divine orb. Descriptions for poison spreading now explicitly state the spread radius instead of just stating nearby. Nice. I like seeing the stats instead of like ambiguous language, so prove. Blood Notch unique jewel now has 20 to 30% of damage taken from stunning hits as recovered his life from 40 to 60. Oh. The Blood Notch jewel, I think that was one of the main ones used by the cast on stun build, right? So that really depletes its regeneration ability with that build. Yeah, the self-stun. I don't remember which ascendancy specifically, but I remember that was pretty strong. Okay. That's half from 60% to 30%. Bloodseeker unique claw now has 200 to 250 physical damage, previously 200 to 220. Okay, so upper high end. No longer has 5% increased attack speed or 5% increased movement speed. Oh. Bloodseeker now has 15 to 25% increased life reservation efficiency of skills and 5 to 10% increased maximum recovery of life. Sorry. Increased maximum recovery per life leech for each 5% of life reserved. Huh. So I haven't messed with this a lot. I wonder if this is really good if you're doing builds that reserve your life but turn your life regeneration or leech into energy shield. I don't remember the name of it. Hold on. I'm gonna full screen this really quick. I'm pretty sure there was one. Trying to remember where it was here. Maybe I'm thinking of Path of Exile 2. Oh no, it's Zealot's Oath. That's the one I'm thinking of. Oh my goodness. I was looking closer to the south end here. Yeah, so life regeneration is applied to energy shield instead. Up here. I don't really do life leech. I don't know. Let me look this up. Okay. So you would need the other one. I was right. Okay. One sec here. So you would need a different one. Which is, I think it's called Reaver over here. Leech energy shield instead of life. Yeah. And maximum total recovery per second is doubled. I wonder if that works. I'd have to see. Let's see. Da-da. Hmm. Interesting. Apparently it doesn't work anymore. It used to work. So Bloodseeker applies life leech instances. Oh, this is old though. So this could have changed. Makes life leech apply to energy shield instead. But it depends if the conversion happens before or afterward. Because if it's just a conversion of the stat afterward, like after the other data gets processed, then I could see it working. So for example, if you hit an enemy, it procs your life leech, okay? Then it goes through if you have any positives to life leech. And then Ghost Reaver makes life leech apply to energy shield instead of life. So the total value after modifiers, instead of going to your life, applies to energy shield. That is how it's worded and how my brain is reading it. But I am not sure if that's actually how it works. It's another thing I'm going to add to the list of things to look into afterward. Okay. If it works, that's cool. Essentia Sanguis now has 1 to 650 to 850 lightning damage. Previously 6 to 700. Okay, so much higher. And 200 to 300 to max energy shield. Previously 30 to 40. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. Oh, wait. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, they increased the high end and added way more energy shield. Interesting. And this is flat energy shield. So I wonder if when you're doing your instacker for ES, I don't know what body armor you generally use, but, well, I guess this is a claw specifically, but what weapon it would be. Like 200 to 300 seems a lot. Like in my brain, did they add one too many zeros? Like, is it 20 to 30 instead of 30 to 40? You know what I mean? Although it no longer has 8% chance to block attack damage while dual wielding claws, and instead now has maximum recovery per energy shield leech is doubled. Oh. Implicit modifier is now 2% of attack damage leeches life from 2% of physical leeches life. Okay, so it can be any attack damage. It doesn't have to be physical damage. Okay. Wouldn't that be really cool if you had Bloodseeker, Essentia, and if we checked if Bloodseeker worked with it, you would have a Reaver? So you're increasing the max recovery rate. Plus you're increasing the recovery through energy shield leech because it's converted afterward. Huh. That might be interesting to look at. I'll keep those in mind. Hold on, let me add them to my list here. All right. That sounds cool. Hand of Heresy unique gloves now have melee attacks have from 0.8 to 1.6 to critical strike chance against excommunicated enemies. Oh, right, we were looking at one of the skills that excommunicates enemies. So that's what would be affected by this. The Moroi Erki? Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Unique Mace has a 40 to 50% increased AoE now. Lion's Eye Glare. So this was a cool one. So Lion's Eye's Glare now has attacks you use yourself repeat an additional time, and attacks you use yourself have 50% more attack speed. Implicit modifier is now 20 to 40% increased global physical. Previously 20 to 24 increased elemental. It no longer has 10 to 20% increased attack speed. These changes do not affect existing versions. Wow. So the big thing to note is this. So this is changing it a bit. So the 10 to 20% increased attack speed would scale things like totems that go off your weapon, because the increased attack speed is based off of it would increase the attack speed of the item itself. But specifically now they're making it so that you have 50% more, not increased, more attack speed with attacks that you use yourself. So it's really trying to emphasize the you shoot the arrows, which is really cool. Because I've wanted to make a Gatling, like a machine gun build for a while. So that might be cool. Pledge of Hands now has socketed gems are supported by level 1 greater spell echo instead of level 1 instead of level 30. The staff now has 50 to 100% increased max mana instead of 50. Oh. Huh. Instead of level 30 greater spell echo, it's level 1. Now, I don't know if that's because the greater changed. So, like, the actual effects might be different. I'm not sure. But 50% up on max mana, pretty nice. New replica unique. Replica gifts from above. Is that the ring? I think that's the ring. It is. Prismatic ring that triggers level 10 consecrate whenever the players deal a critical strike. Yeah, there you go. Shaper's Touch unique gloves now have 2 accuracy per 2 intelligence, previously +4. Okay. Another intelligence stacking nerf. 2 accuracy per 2 instead of 4 per 2. Sibyl's Lament now grants 100% of elemental hit damage from you or your minions cannot be reflected. In the left ring slot, previously 80. Oh. So this is just 100% negate either elemental hit damage or physical damage based on left or right ring. That's cool. Soul Taker Axe now has eat 2 to 4 souls when you kill a rare or unique enemy with this weapon. Okay. Which is like mini Soul Eater. Supreme Truth Scepter no longer grants 20% increased elemental damage, and instead now grants attacks with this weapon inflict Hallowing Flame on hit. Huh. I guess this is a buff. If you're using minions. Because I think the bonus fire damage added from Hallowing Flame is more than a 20% increase. Although Hallowing Flame is strictly fire damage. This is all elemental. Unseen Hue now drops from regular Incarnation of Fear. Is this down from Uber? Think so. Not sure. Or is this... Hold on. I like to double check these. I guess it used to be from the Uber version specifically, and now it's from the normal. Looks like it. Okay. So it makes it more accessible. Voltaxic Rift Bow now treats enemy monster chaos resistance values as inverted and no longer has hits with this weapon shock enemies as though dealing 300% more damage. Oh, so it's just... Wait, what? Voltaxic. The name sounds electricity based, right? Voltage. Why is it chaos? Treats enemy monster chaos resist values as inverted, but no longer has hits with this weapon shock enemies as dealing 300% more damage. Huh. That seems strange. Woe Spike Unique Ring now has 40 to 50... Oh, one sec here. I gotta reset this. Sorry, I was being weird. There we go. Okay. Woe Spike Unique Ring now has 40 to 50% less impale duration. Previously 25 to 40. Okay, so more reduced duration and a 20 to 30% chance on melee hit for the strongest impale to last one additional hit. So lower. Now drops from the Uber incarnation. Wait, so hold on. They nerfed it. So it lasts shorter and has a lower chance to trigger, but drops from the Uber version now. So it's nerfed in the duration, nerfed in the chance to proc, and nerfed in the sense of it's harder to get. I'm assuming it was a pretty big staple for, like, what's it called? Bone Shatter, I think? Maybe? But still, that seems a bit much. The contents of additional unique item modifiers on strongboxes will now drop a unique item matching the types of item dropped from the strongbox, if possible. Alright. We are in item changes. Oh my goodness. Currency items now account for a significantly larger portion of dropped items. This change is to allow currency rewards from slaying enemies to be more competitive with other sources of it within the game. This change does not affect the number of scrolls of wisdom or portal scrolls that drop. Non-unique equipment items are approximately 6% less common as a result of this change. They do not affect Ruthless, though. The Heist Trinket modifiers granting a chance in Heist for Chaos Orbs and Regal Orbs to drop as Exalted has been disabled. Oh, okay. New Heist Trinket modifiers granting a chance. That's right. I don't know why this is acting up here. Weird. Okay. Where was I? New Heist Trinket modifiers granting a chance for Chaos or Regal to drop as Ancient. Oh, so they're just switching them around. I see. Lowered the values on Heist Trinket modifiers granting a chance in Heist for Regal to drop as Divine. Oh, okay. So lower chance. Inscribed ultimatums for Ancient and Fracturing Orbs. Inscribed ultimatums for Exalted Orbs are now at higher stack sizes and have a lower difficulty on average. Eater of Worlds altars can now have modifiers for Eldritch monsters or map bosses to drop Ancients. So they're just moving all of this stuff from Harbinger over to other content. Which makes sense. Ancient and Fracturing Orbs are now obtainable as Sanctum rewards too. I kind of like that Fracturing Orbs are being moved to a lot more content, which makes them way more common, but also their price won't be as nearly as high, I'm guessing. which is nice because they were expensive. Lowered currency exchange gold fees for exalted orbs, shards, and regal orbs. Nice. Crafting bench options that previously cost a number of exalted orbs now generally cost 4. Previously 1 to 3. Okay, so they averaged out most of their cost to 4, but because the drops are more likely, it's a higher cost. I think. Makes sense. The vendor recipe for a full set of influenced items of the same type now returns 1 exalted orb instead of 2 exalted shards. Double the amount of all items are identified. Okay. Lowering how much the modify tier rating is granted to rare items generated from the King's March shipping, the mapping, gambling, and Genesis tree. Oh, okay. Wait, so does that mean it's harder to get higher tier mods from shipping, mapping, gambling in the tree? Okay. I mean, for the tree and stuff, that makes sense. It kind of sucks about the mapping, shipping. I remember a lot of people saying that re-rolling the gambling, like just getting them over and over again, actually ended up being pretty good. So I guess that's why they cut it down here. Increase the penalty to gold. Sorry, missed one. Relative rarities of several currencies have been adjusted. Most notably, exalted and regal orbs will now be comparatively more common. Well, there you go. Okay, that's why. That's why the cost went up in the craft bench too. Penalty to gold and map drops on breach and blight monsters. Oh, really? The penalty to gold and map drops on breach and blight monsters. Huh, okay. Which is weird because you're increasing the penalty to them, but for blight, you're also reducing the amount of monsters, so you're hitting it twice. Because we don't have the extra modifier to normal monsters that get summoned. Essence of Insanity on rings now grants 60% of hit damage from you and your minions cannot be reflected, up from 40. Synthesis implicit on rings now grant up to 30% of damage cannot be reflected, up from 15. So they pretty much like doubled most of these. They bumped them quite a bit higher. Honestly, I would personally rather they just remove damage reflect than just add more things that reduce it. Because generally it's just like a build canceller, right? It's like, I don't like this build. Damage yourself instead. Influence modifiers on rings now grant up to 75% of elemental or physical damage from you or your minions can't be reflected. Watcher Eye modifiers now grant up to 75% cannot be reflected for specific damage types when affected by specific auras, up from 50. Justified Ambition Divination card can be once more a reward from Cortex. Primordial Bond Cluster Jewel now has 20% increased effective buffs from golems. This is the other one. Primordial Bond has 20% increased effective buffs granted by golems, down from 40. So this is cut in half again. Plus you're losing the 50% from the Elementalist Ascendancy. So that's a lot. Small attack block cluster jewels can now roll new notable Fiery Aegis. I don't know what that is. Medium exerted ones can roll Holy Word, which I believe Holy Word is the one they showed off that has to do with the Hallowed Flame. Runecraft of Refraction no longer has skills chain an additional time. They now have projectiles chain an additional time. Oh, so it works on attacks as well now. Well, anything, actually. It's all projectiles. That's cool. Removed all crafts that enchant flasks from the Horda crafting bench. Wait, what? Oh. Okay. Existing items with these are unaffected. Beast crafting recipe to apply a Hinakora's lock to a magic item can no longer be used on corrupted items. Oh, okay. Essences now have a max stack size of 10 previously. I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm so glad they did this. Having stacks of 9 was like... OCD just wants it 10. Got rounded up, please. Follow through notable cluster jewel passive now grants projectiles deal 20% increased damage with hits and ailments for each remaining chain, up to 100. Previously 15 with no cap. Oh. So they increased the minimum, but added a 100% cap. So 5 chains maximum. Okay. Clarified some description on cluster jewel notables such as purposeful harbinger and follow through to make it clear that the caps are global. Purely a descriptive change. All unique maps now have a fee about 2,000 gold when purchasing from a merchant tab. Oh, okay. Itemized beasts now have vastly lower gold fees, and their gold fees are no longer dependent on the modifiers on the beasts. That's nice. Again, Bestiary is getting a ton of buffs for this. Rare monster item bonuses convert all equipment to currency is now more common. And added one new vendor recipe. They're not telling us what it is, though. Ruthless specific changes. Quick step skill now has 200% increased cooldown recovery rate if you use when no enemies are in your presence. Okay, so faster to get around. All paths not taken grants maps have a extra prefix and suffix while 6 gateways are allocated. Cool. Reduce the damage dealt by Rusty Crusher shock rifle ability by about 50%. Apparently that was a problem. Alright, 1 sec here. Alright. Quest reward changes. Holy Strike can now be purchased from Nessa by the Scion upon completing enemy at the gate. Hallow support can be purchased by Nessa from Nessa by the Templar when completing enemy at the gate, and by the Marauder, Witch, and Scion when completing Mercy mission. Elemental proliferation support is now offered to the Templar by completing Mercy mission. Shield of Light is now offered to the Templar by completing Intruders in Black, and can be purchased by Yina. From Yina by the Scion. Exemplar support is now offered to the Templar for completing the Sharp and Cruel, purchased by Yina from Witch and Scion. Divine Blast is Sever the Right Hand for Templar. Clarissa for Marauder and Scion. Blessed Call support is offered to the Templar for a Fixture of Fate, and Clarissa for Marauder and Scion. And then Excommunicate can be purchased for the Templar by a Fixture of Fate, and purchased by Clarissa for Marauder and Scion. So just adding the new skills into unlock zones. User interface and quality of life changes. Completing the final ritual altar in an area now displays a notification and highlight the ritual rewards button as a reminder to spend it before leaving. Items in the sale history can now show the full details of the item when hovering it. Existing sales history in permanent leagues will be deleted as part of this change. See, this is weird to me. I don't know why. Like, it's fine that they added it. I'm not complaining. But I don't know why you would want to do this. Like, if I'm selling an item, I generally know what the stats are because I don't want it for whatever reason, right? You're going to sell it. So I don't know what the point of viewing the details of it in the, like, sale log does. I'm not sure. You can now create favorite trades, which we did see in the demo. Added a button to the currency exchange that toggles between having your sash or your inventory panel open. On PC, opening the I want and I have currency selection window at the currency exchange now immediately sets focus on the search input field. Nice. Labyrinth Craft to transform a non-transfigured gem into a transfigured version now allows you to select the transfigured version you desire most in cases where multiple versions exist of that gem, which is nice. Like, for example, the Firestorm, you have the Firestorm of Pelting and the Firestorm of Meteors. So you'd be able to choose between the two. So that's nice. Heist display cases at the end of a blueprint are no longer targetable once lockdown begins, as you could no longer interact with them anyway. List of modifiers affecting excavated monsters and chests in Expedition will now split into multiple columns to display all text if there are sufficient modifiers that would go otherwise off screen. That's funny. Added quick use currency buttons to ritual shrines. These buttons will only be visible if you have the relevant currency items in your inventory. Control clicking divination cards into the window will automatically turn them in. If there's an item already present in the window, it will be moved to your inventory when clicking a new stack. That's, again, this is all just quality of life stuff, but it's super nice quality of life stuff. So you don't have to click, drag it over, hit, reveal, drag it back over. Just saves time. Forbidden Tomes now display the area level of the Sanctum on their inventory screen. Added buff icons to easily tracked for easier tracking of dead orb specters. Made shrines easier to highlight even when surrounded by enemies. Aided an Archivist quest no longer shows on the quest tracker when not in Act 10. Exploring King's March and King's March prospecting quest no longer show on the quest tracker in towns outside of the Cruise shores. Eternal orbs can now be tracked via the trade exchange in standard leagues, which is nice. They can, well, I mean, again, I don't know many people that actually play in the standard league, so, but you can trade them now. Hovering an item while applying a divine orb or a blessed orb now highlights the specific modifier values that can be rerolled. I really appreciate this. They did show this off in the demo. Or the reveal for the league. Because some can't. I believe they said that they weren't sure if the shrines on the belt, like the new belt, could be re-rolled. So something like that would be really good to know before you apply divines or something to it. UI feedback when a mythic orb destroys a target item. Keybind for hot swapping the current selected currency when repeatedly applying currency to items can now be customized in options. Map items are no longer required to set guild tags. The /reclaim guild tag items chat command can be used to reclaim items from the old guild tag inventory if required. I don't think I've ever seen that. Arrows at the edges of the Lycia Bloodline Ascendancy class artwork are now 100% aligned with the chevrons of the Witch, Duelist, and Scion starting locations. Previously 0% aligned. That's funny. Added reminder text for fleeing. Granted, for example, by chance to flee support. Okay, that's cool. When using a controller, Atlas Passive Tree now displays a confirmation prompt if attempting to close it with pending changes. Added ability to filter out offline guild members when using controller. Right shoulder R1 can now be used to take rewards out of divination window when using controller. Added alternative behavior to raise a zombie that allows you to target the spell in front of you when using controller. And added navigational inputs for currency and fragment substashes when using controller. All of our console players will really like that. Let's see here. Enabled the Last of the Druids mystery box and its microtransaction contents for use in Path of Exile. Enabled Blood Moon level up effect for use in Path of Exile. And then again, we probably won't be going over all the bug fixes because there is a tremendous amount of them. If there's something specific you're looking for, like allied hiveborn monsters could incorrectly be raised as specters. That's kind of funny. But I'll kind of go through them here at this speed. If there's something that you see that's interests you, feel free to pause it and take a look. All right, we're in the updates. So we're going to do this one first because this came out on the 1st. And then we're going to do this one, which came out on the 2nd. Chain support has cost reservation of 140 instead of 150, so it went down. Oh, okay, so these are just the ones that they've changed. We've already read through these. These are ones that they've changed afterward. And then this one is Viper Strike. Yeah, these are the other changes that happened previously. Removed patch notes. Low tolerance cluster jewel notable now has poisons you inflict on non-poisoned enemies deal 200% increased damage, previously 300. So they got rid of this nerf. It sounds like. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, as always, very nice. That was a very long patch notes. I mean, PoE generally has a lot of information in its patch notes for sure, but between the endgame changes, all the quality of life updates, everything like that, I am very excited for Friday. I think this is actually the most excited I've seen a lot of people for League in a while. So I'm very excited to get into it, to play it, and, you know, especially experiment with the endgame changes as well. So, but yeah. For anyone that's on the YouTube side, we're going to end our patch notes video here. So thank you very much for joining me for these very long patch notes. Again, apologies if there is something that I didn't quite understand because I don't know every single build or unique item. I'm just going off of mostly what I know and the specific notes themselves or the items themselves, not necessarily the combination of items. But let me know. I'm interested to see if I missed something or, you know, there's combinations that might have seemed like a nerf that have been a buff. All the things like that. But thank you again. Hopefully you join us tomorrow. If you don't, hopefully you have a great rest of your week. And as always, hopefully you have a great rest of your day today, whether it be morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on your time zone. So thanks again. I'll see you next time.